The Polaroid Project, Retro Horrors, The Lost Decade, Book 6. Written by B. Humphrey. Narrated by Khai Lannor. Chapter 1. The sun baked the asphalt of the old flea market lot, a simmering shimmer rising from its cracked, uneven surface like a warning. Somewhere down the row of booths, a boombox crackled with the tinny strains of Take On Me, its beat floating through the stalls, mixing with the scent of hot pretzels, frying sausages, and stale popcorn. Jesse Harper adjusted the strap of his Walkman slung over his shoulder, the faint hum of a cassette winding down as the song ended. He slipped off his headphones, letting them hang around his neck, and waved to Tina Delgado, who was poring over a milk crate of vinyl records at the nearest table. "You find anything good?" Jesse asked, stuffing his hands into the pockets of his faded jean jacket. Tina pushed her oversized sunglasses up her nose, a playful grin tugging at the corner of her mouth. "You mean besides more beats for your future as a DJ extraordinaire?" "Not yet." Jesse rolled his eyes, but he couldn't help but smile. Tina always had a way of making everything sound cooler than it was, like he wasn't just a kid making mixtapes in his basement, but a rising star in the making. The market bustled with energy, a living thing made of rusted bicycles, mismatched roller skates, and forgotten relics of other people's pasts. Old men haggled over baseball cards, their fingers stained with ink, while moms with feathered hair picked through racks of parachute pants for their restless kids. Logan Pierce appeared out of nowhere, skidding to a stop on his skateboard with a smooth, practiced ease. His blonde hair, sun-bleached from too many afternoons at the skate park, stuck out in every direction, like he'd just rolled out of bed. Because, knowing Logan, he probably had. "You guys have to see this," Logan said, breathless, as he kicked his board into his hands. "There's this creepy booth back there, selling all kinds of weird old junk, like haunted house kind of stuff." "Haunted, you say?" Britt O'Leary's voice cut in as she joined them, a stuffed plastic bag slung over her shoulder. "You're speaking my language." She adjusted her neon headband, eyes wide with intrigue. Britt had a thing for the paranormal. Ghost stories, UFO sightings, you name it. If it was spooky, she wanted to know everything there was to know about it. Jesse, Tina, Logan, and Britt exchanged glances, an unspoken agreement passing between them. They were going to check it out. They weaved through the rows of booths, dodging kids with dripping ice cream cones and old women hawking homemade jams. Each step brought them deeper into the heart of the flea market, where the sunlight didn't quite reach, and the air felt heavier, muffled by dusty tarps and the scent of mildew. The booth Logan had found was crammed between two larger stalls, almost hidden behind a curtain of beaded necklaces. The air inside was thick and musty, like an attic sealed shut for decades. Trinkets cluttered the tables, yellowed postcards, antique dolls with chipped faces, and tarnished jewelry tangled in knots. "Check this out," Logan whispered, holding up a cracked porcelain doll with half a face. "Why would anyone want that?" Tina muttered, shuddering. Britt leaned in, her fingers grazing the edge of a brass Ouija board. "I bet this stuff is cursed, my dudes. We should buy everything." "Ooh, man, I love a good curse," Logan whispered with a grin. Behind the counter sat a strange lady, eyes lost in her huge glasses. She had bright hair and too much red lipstick on. She looked as if she'd been waiting for them, like she knew they would come. Jesse noticed the camera first. It sat on the edge of the table, hidden beneath a tangle of braided friendship bracelets and dust-covered postcards. It was a Polaroid camera, big, clunky, and scarred with years of use. The kind of thing you'd expect to find in your grandma's attic, right next to old photo albums with cracked leather covers. Jesse picked it up, feeling the weight of it in his hands. It smelled faintly of plastic and vinegar, like the scent of cassette tapes left in a hot car. "How much?" Jesse asked. The lady's lips curled into a slight smile. "It chooses who it belongs to," she said, in a voice like dry leaves scraping pavement. $15, and it's yours." Jesse exchanged glances with the others. Britt's eyes sparkled with excitement, and even Tina, usually the skeptical one, looked intrigued. Logan just shrugged, pulling a crumpled $5 bill from his back pocket. "I got 5 on it." "I've got the rest," Jesse said, digging into his own pocket for a handful of change and crumpled bills. The woman's eyes seemed to glint as she accepted the money. "Be careful what you capture," she whispered, almost to herself, as Jesse slung the Polaroid camera over his shoulder. They left the booth with the camera, the woman's words lingering in the back of Jesse's mind like a half-remembered dream. They gathered in Jesse's basement later that afternoon, the room lit by the glow of his lava lamp and the soft hum of the box fan whirring in the corner. Posters of The Clash and Duran Duran covered the walls, and the scent of buttered popcorn filled the air as Logan opened a fresh bag of microwave popcorn. Tina sprawled on the couch with her legs tucked beneath her, flipping through an old comic book. Britt sat cross-legged on the floor, her hands cradling the Polaroid camera as if it were a precious artifact. Logan balanced on the edge of the armrest, his skateboard propped against the wall. "Let's try it out," Britt said, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. Jesse grabbed the camera and pointed it at Logan. "Say cheese and crackers." Logan struck a ridiculous pose, fingers framing his face, and Jesse snapped the photo. The camera whirred, spitting out a glossy white square. They all leaned in as the image slowly developed, first a blur, then shapes, then color. And then they froze. The photo did not show Logan's goofy pose. Instead, it showed someone mid-stride, caught in motion like a frame yanked out of a horror movie. A boy ran straight toward the camera, eyes wide, mouth open in a scream that had no sound. His arms were pumped tight to his sides, hair blown back, one sneaker just a blur above the pavement. The whole picture felt tilted, like the world inside it had started to slide. The 4 of them leaned closer, shoulders bumping. "Yo," Logan said softly. "That's not me." "What the hell?" Jesse whispered. "It's not." The boy in the photo was thinner than Logan, a little shorter, with dark hair that needed a comb. He wore a red windbreaker with white stripes down the sleeves, the kind a lot of kids at school had, and jeans that were torn at the knee. His face looked familiar. "He goes to our school," Tina said, her voice low. She lifted her sunglasses to her head to see better. "Hold on." She tapped the glossy surface, careful not to smudge it. "That's Ricky Langton, right?" Britt blew a bubble and popped it. "Yeah, that's totally Ricky. He sits behind us in homeroom, Jesse. The kid who always draws vans and guitars on his folders." Ricky Langton, the kid who always showed up late with his headphones still around his neck, hair messed up like he had run all the way to school. The kid who laughed too loud at dumb jokes and spent lunch trading garbage pail kids cards over by the science wing doors. Ricky Langton, captured in Jesse's basement on a Polaroid, sprinting straight toward the lens with a look of terror on his face. Jesse swallowed. "How the hell is he in this picture? He's not here. We're not outside, wherever this street is." "We didn't see him at the flea market either," Tina said. Britt leaned in like a detective. "Maybe the camera's picking up like another place, another time? Oh, wait, what if it's a window? You guys, what if this is like some kind of psychic snapshot?" Logan laughed. "Or," he said, "maybe it's one of those prank cameras, like the ones with joke images already loaded. The old lady probably sells them to people with pictures of the locals already in them. You push the button, it spits out some random person, everyone freaks out, she makes bank. Wash, rinse, repeat." "She said it chooses who it belongs to," Britt reminded him. "That's some spooky talk, like cursed object talk. You feel me?" Tina kept staring at the photograph. Her brown eyes had gone distant in a way that made Jesse uneasy. "Look at the background," she said quietly. "Not just the boy. Look behind him." They bent in again. Ricky was running on a street they almost recognized. Concrete sidewalk, curb, a smear of asphalt. On the left, a chain-link fence leaned inward, sagging under the weight of dead vines. On the right, there was a row of boxy houses, pale and flat under a sky that seemed too white. The farthest one had aluminum siding and a busted porch rail. "It could be anywhere," Logan said, but there was doubt in his voice. "It looks like it's near the shops," Jesse said. "Like over near the old video store by Maple. You see that fence? That could be behind the 7-Eleven. Britt pointed to the top corner of the frame. "Look at the light. It's not daytime. That looks like streetlight glow." The boy's face held most of the light. It shone on his eyes, which had gone wide enough to show thin crescents of white under his irises. "What's he running from?" Tina whispered. No one answered. Somewhere upstairs, Jesse's mom moved around in the kitchen, cupboard doors thumping. The smells of popcorn and laundry detergent drifted through the vents. Britt popped another Bazooka Joe bubble. "Take another one." Jesse looked at her. "Another what?" "Picture, dork, of anything, the ceiling, the floor, me making a funny face, I don't care, just take another picture." Logan reached for the camera before Jesse could decide. "I got you guys." He raised the camera one-handed and pointed it at Britt, who crossed her eyes and stuck a finger in her nose. The flash popped, bright and hot, leaving a green smear across their vision. The familiar whir followed, mechanical and satisfying. Then the camera spit out another white rectangle of possibility. Logan shook it gently. "Do we still have to shake these, or was that just some old bull cheese?" It's not whatever bull cheese is, but quit it," Tina said. "You're gonna mess it up." They set the new photo on the coffee table next to the first. The two squares sat side by side like small shadows. Color bled into the new one slowly, shadows and shapes crawling out of the milky gray. "I'm not actually sure I want to see this," Jesse said. "I know, right?" Britt said. "What if it's like some ghost in here or something?" The second picture came up faster than the first. The four of them watched it form in stunned silence. It was not Britt's face. It was the same boy as before. Ricky Langton, caught mid-run again, but from a slightly different angle. This time, his body leaned farther to the right, like he had started to veer. One arm flung out, reaching towards something just out of frame. He was closer to the right edge of the picture, almost cut off by it, his hair flying. The background had shifted. Behind him now, the row of houses had fallen away. In their place was a gap between two buildings, a darker slice of space. An alley. The mouth of it gaped just behind his shoulder, a rectangle of shadow between a brick wall and the back of a narrow store. A metal trash can lay on its side there, lid rolling toward the curb. An old milk crate sat half smashed against the wall. To the left of the alley, mounted high on a rusted pole, a street sign had just started to become legible as the photo finished developing. Tina leaned closer, her nose almost touching the glossy surface. "It says Langford," she murmured. "Langford Street." Britt's head snapped around. "That's over by the car wash, right? Near Lincoln?" "Yeah," Jesse said. "Behind the laundromat." "I bike through there all the time," Logan added. "That alley's right by the shortcut to the arcade, the one with the busted light where everyone says creeps hang out." "It's gotta be bullshit, man," Logan said, but he did not sound sold on it anymore. "Like someone took a bunch of pictures of random kids in town, loaded them into the film somehow. Maybe Ricky did some dumb local modeling gig and doesn't want anyone to know." "That is not how Polaroids work," Tina said. "The film is blank until the chemicals hit the paper. You can't just sneak pictures in there, you have to take them." "Maybe the old lady doctored the film," Logan tried again. "Like movie magic wizardry?" "Oh my god, Logan," Britt said. "Could you please just admit for once that some weird shit is happening?" "Whatever, man." "Take another," Britt said, her voice sharp. "Right now." Jesse hesitated. His palms had gone slick, and the camera felt heavier in his hands than it had at the flea market. He remembered the old woman's eyes, the way she had watched him count his money. He swallowed hard. "Okay, last one," he said. Jesse raised the camera, pointed it at the far wall where his Clash poster hung crooked, and pressed the shutter. The flash exploded, white and merciless, etching the room into stark negatives for a split second. The whir of the camera filled the quiet. The third photograph slid out. Jesse set it gently on the coffee table beside the other two. All four of them leaned in a small circle around the growing images, their faces lit by dull yellow lamplight and the strange ghostly colors seeping up from the glossy squares. This one took longer. Shapes emerged in slow motion, like someone pulling a blanket off something they didn't want anyone to see. The pavement appeared first, gray and speckled, with a dark line of gutter full of rainwater. The alley mouth formed beyond it, the brick walls on either side stained and streaked, a rusted dumpster jutting in from the left edge. The same street sign hovered above, its letters clearer now. Langford Street. A dark shape sprawled on the concrete near the alley entrance. "Please be a trash bag, please be a trash bag," Logan repeated like a mantra. But it was not a trash bag. The outline sharpened. Arms, legs, a head turned away from the camera. The boy's red windbreaker lay twisted, one sleeve bunched up toward the elbow. One sneaker had come off and lay a foot away, its laces splayed like white worms. Ricky Langton was not running anymore. He didn't look like he even could run anymore. He looked like he had been twisted up and mangled. The color spread into that shape. Red. It soaked into the pavement under his shoulder, smeared along the side of his face, darkened his hair. One hand lay open beside him, fingers curled slightly as if they had tried to grip something that was no longer there. His body twisted grotesquely. One leg was clearly not attached anymore, but lay nearby. Britt slapped a hand over her mouth, the sound sharp in the stillness. Tina gasped and backed away until the backs of her knees hit the couch. Logan didn't move. He just stared at the picture, his mouth hanging open a little, eyes darting as if searching for some trick, some obvious fake edge or mark that could make sense of it. Jesse's stomach twisted and twisted until it felt like someone had wound a cord through him.
"It's blood,"
Britt said at last. Her voice came out muffled against her palm. "There's so much of it." "That can't be real," Logan whispered. But it was. The shadows, the colors, the wet shine along the pavement, all of it looked too natural, too right, too horrific. A Polaroid couldn't fake that. Tina sank onto the couch. "Holy shit, man," she said softly. "What the fuck are we seeing here?" Britt crouched again and picked up the picture, holding it with shaking fingers. "Look," she said. "Right there. See that little white corner?" She tilted it toward the lamp. In the lower edge of the border, printed faintly in tiny black numbers, were a date and timestamp. August 14th, 1987, 5:42 p.m. Tina blinked. "That's tomorrow." She set the photo back down like it might burn her fingers. "That means whatever we're seeing hasn't happened yet." Logan rubbed the back of his neck. "Shit, man, maybe it really is possessed or haunted by some kind of ghost." Britt leaned back, staring down at the 3 photographs spread across the coffee table like pieces of evidence. In one, Ricky Langton ran for his life. In the next, he turned down an alley on Langford Street. In the last, he lay dead. "We have to tell somebody," Britt said. "Tell who?" Logan asked. "The cops? They'll think we're nuts. We can't go in there like, hey, we found some magic photos of a kid dying tomorrow. Want to take a look?" "We could tell Ricky," she said. Tina looked befuddled. "Tell him what exactly?" "Hey, Ricky, we got a camera from a creepy old lady and it has pictures of you dying behind the car wash tomorrow." "Hey, don't get shitty with me," Britt said, "or you're going to wind up getting Brit slapped." Jesse rubbed his forehead. "You're such a goob sometimes." "You," she said back, with a pop of her neck. "We don't even know if it's real. he said. Maybe this is some kind of trick or something, like Logan said. Ugh, you're impossible sometimes, Tina said. How about we just tell him what's up tomorrow at school and show him the photos? Logan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Fine, we'll show him. It's kind of weird, but whatever. Outside, the sun had started to dip, washing Jesse's small basement window in amber light. Dust floated in the air, slow and lazy, glowing like tiny ghosts. The Polaroid camera sat on the table, quiet now. The 3 pictures gleamed in the lamplight. Logan finally stood and grabbed his skateboard from the corner. Okay, my dudes, he said. I'm gonna go home before my mom freaks. See you guys tomorrow. Tina followed him up the stairs without a word, her comic book forgotten on the couch. Britt stayed a moment longer, staring down at the camera, then followed them out. And somewhere in town, far from the hum of Jesse's basement and the warm glow of his lava lamp, a street light flickered over Langford Street. Chapter 2. Jesse woke up with the camera on his desk. He did not remember putting it there. Last thing he remembered was staring at the 3 pictures until his eyes burned, then crawling into bed without brushing his teeth. Now the Polaroid sat beside his alarm clock, square and heavy, pointed at his pillow like it had been watching him sleep. The room was gray with early light. The lava lamp in the corner was dark. A car went past outside with its radio turned up too loud. The sound came through the thin walls in a brief smear and faded. Jesse pushed himself up on his elbows and listened. House sounds. The fridge motor downstairs. The heater ticking. His mom moving around in the kitchen. Cupboard doors bumping shut. Nothing strange. Nothing out of place, except the camera. He swung his legs out of bed, sat there a second, then reached for the camera. The plastic was cool. The strap was twisted, same as last night when he dropped it on the basement table. He could still smell the faint chemical tang that clung to it, the one that reminded him of hot cassette tapes and old photographs. He set it back down and dressed on autopilot. Jeans, Def Leppard shirt, the jean jacket with the frayed cuffs. He shoved books into his bag, then stopped and went back for the Polaroid. He stood there a moment, the strap hanging from his fingers. Leave it, bring it. If Ricky came to school, they would need it. Hard to explain all this without proof. He slipped the strap over his shoulder and the pictures in his backpack. The camera thumped against his hip as he went downstairs. His mom stood at the stove in her robe, hair pinned up, frying eggs. The television on the counter played the local morning show, all smiles and weather. You're going to miss the bus, Mr. Man, she said. I got time, Jesse said. She glanced over. Take your headphones off at the table. He realized he had put his Walkman on without thinking. He slid it down around his neck and sat. Big plans today? She asked. Just school. You sound thrilled. He poked at the toast on his plate. His stomach didn't feel like it wanted food. It felt knotted, wound up. She noticed the camera at his side. Where'd you get that? At the flea market, he said. Yesterday. Nice. Take any good pictures? He choked on his juice. Not yet. She shook her head, faint smile at the corner of her mouth, and flipped the egg. Okay, then. He thought about telling her, about saying there's something wrong with this camera. He thought about showing her the pictures, pointing at the look on Ricky's face. Instead, he ate one bite of toast and washed it down with the remaining orange juice, and left. Leaving, he said. Take a jacket, she said. It's not summer anymore, no matter what you think. He tapped the sleeve of his jean jacket. Got one. On the porch, the air had a bite to it. Not full fall yet, just that first reminder. That little tap on the shoulder to let you know that all the leaves and plant life would be dying around you soon. And he loved it. The sky was a flat, pale blue, and he could see his breath if he blew hard enough. He slung his bag higher on his shoulder and started down the sidewalk toward the bus stop. By the time he reached the corner, Logan was there, board tucked under one arm, backpack hanging by one strap. "You look like cat poop, my bro," Logan said. "Thanks, man. That's so sweet of you to notice." "Sleep?" "A little." "Any dreams about your new haunted camera?" "No, but dreamed about your mama." Logan smirked. "That's good. Hope she made you some pancakes and took real good care of you there, buddy." His eye slid to the camera bumping Jesse's hip. "You brought it," he said. "Yeah, figured it'd be easier when we show Ricky," Jesse said. "True, true." The bus groaned around the corner, blue paint flaking near the wheel wells. Kids inside pressed faces to the glass. Someone pounded on the window. They climbed on and made their way down the aisle. The familiar smell of bus vinyl and old gum hit Jesse's nose. They slid into their usual seat in the middle. Logan dropped his board between his feet. "Think he's gonna freak?" he asked. "Who wouldn't, man?" Jesse said. They fell quiet. A little brother and sister fought over a He-Man figure. The driver told them to knock it off without turning around. Tina got on at the next stop. She moved down the aisle, hugging her books to her chest. When she saw them, she sat across from their seat, knees bumping the metal. She looked at the camera, then at Jesse. "You bring the pictures?" she asked. "In my bag," he said. She nodded. Her sunglasses were tucked into her hair instead of on her eyes this morning. She looked tired. "Any of you see him?" she asked. "Not yet," Logan said. "Why would we? We just left the house." She gave him a look. "You know what I mean." "No," Logan said. "I did not see him sprinting down Maple with a murderer behind him, if that's what you're asking." "Logan," Jesse said. "What? That's what we're all thinking, right?" "I wasn't," she said, turning her head to look out the window. "Yes, you were." They all fell silent again. Britt got on 2 stops later, holding a folder to her chest, Walkman headphones already around her ears. She mouthed the words to whatever song was playing as she walked down the aisle, probably some bubblegum pop song. Nobody was supposed to know she listened to it, but they all secretly did. When she reached them, she slipped the headphones to her neck and sat beside Tina. "Hey, Tina, Tina, Bobina, banana fan, fofina," she said. Tina danced to the song as she sang it. "Hey, Brittany." She looked to Jesse. "You brought it?" "Yeah." "Good." The bus rattled through town. They passed the strip mall, the laundromat, the arcade with its dark windows and ugly yellow sign. The world outside looked the same as always, but Jesse kept half expecting to see Ricky running down the street being chased by some crazed murderer. The pictures really had a way of worming themselves into your every thought, like they were trying to take center stage. Brushing your teeth, picture flashes in your mind, blowing your nose, pictures, sneeze, pictures picking goobers, pictures. When the bus pulled up in front of the school, the doors hissed open. They filed out with the others into the chill, the usual cloud of voices around them. They paused near the steps. "Plan," Britt said. "We need one." "Find Ricky," Jesse said. "Show him the pictures. That's it. That's the plan." "And if he's not here?" Tina asked. "Why wouldn't he be?" Jesse asked. "Because he might be getting killed somewhere?" "Nah," he said. "It's too early for that." The bell rang, sharp and cold in the air. "First period," Logan said. "Keep your peepers open. Check every class change. Meet at lunch." "Roger that, Captain," Tina said. They split up, pulled apart by the steady stream of students heading for the doors. The ever-present onslaught of shoulders and backpacks pushing through like a stream of confusion. Jesse went to homeroom. His backpack felt heavier with every step. Inside, the room smelled like pencil shavings and the lemon cleaner the janitor used. Posters of presidents and parts of speeches hung crooked on the walls. Kids were slumped in their seats, half awake, talking in low voices. Ricky's desk was 3 rows up, near the window. The chair was empty. Jesse stood in the doorway for a moment, watching it, like maybe Ricky would just materialize into it. Jacket half on, hair messed, grinning about being late. "Take your seat, Harper," Mr. Alden said. Jesse walked down the row and slid into his own chair. He kept looking at the empty one. Mr. Alden called roll. When he reached Ricky's name, he looked up, paused, then said, "Absent," and made a mark. Jesse stared at the back of Ricky's chair until the bell rang again and they all shuffled out. The morning went by in blurred pieces. Math, science, history. The usual shuffle of notebooks and the scratch of chalk. The smell of someone's too strong cologne in the hallway. The slam of locker doors. In every room Jesse checked. No Ricky. He thought he saw his jacket once, hanging by itself on a locker 2 halls over, but someone else grabbed it and put it on. Jesse stood there a second, looking at it. Someone bumped him from behind. "Move, man," a voice said. "You're blocking the lockers, fool." He stepped aside and headed for English. Britt slid into the seat beside him just before the bell. She smelled like the fruity lip gloss she always used. She blew a spitball through a straw at his head. "Anything?" she whispered. "Doh!" He shook his head. "Stop spitting, man. And no, I haven't seen him." She dug a pen out of her bag and flipped open her notebook. Her handwriting was neat and small. In the top corner of the page, she wrote, "Did you check the office?" He nodded, then added under it, "Told the lady I was supposed to give him homework. She said he didn't come in." She read it and wrote back, "Did you tell the lady how you want to kiss her and hug her and love her till the end of time?" He read it, laughed, and wrote back, "No, but I told her about how you like to pick your boogers and eat them for breakfast." She read it and gave a little cheer. "Yay, that's all I've ever really wanted her to know. Thanks, friend." "Anytime. I'm glad I can help." Mr. Cartwright started in on whatever book they were supposed to be reading. Something about a boy and a farm. Jesse stared at the page but didn't turn it. The words blurred. He kept seeing Ricky's face from the photograph. Mouth open, eyes wide. He couldn't remember a single time he had seen the kid look like that in real life. At the end of the period, as everyone stood and gathered their stuff, Britt touched his arm. "Lunchtime, Dillweed," she said. "Beat you there." The cafeteria smelled like fries and milk and too many people in one place. The noise hit him as soon as he stepped through the doors. Metal chair legs scraping. Someone laughing hard enough to cough. Trays clattering against the counter. He grabbed a chocolate milk and a slice of pizza that looked like old cheese on cardboard. He wasn't hungry, but walking around with an empty tray felt weird. Their usual table was near the back, up against the wall. Logan was already there, chewing through a burger without really looking at it. Tina sat across from him, pushing corn around on her tray with a fork. They both looked up when Jesse and Britt dropped their trays. "Well," Logan said. "Roll call." "Nothing," Jesse said. "Nada," Tina said. "Office said he didn't come in," Jesse added. Britt sat down and folded her arms on the table. "So he is not here." "Maybe he's sick," Logan said. Tina shook her head. "Maybe he's dead." "Stop it. He could have just ditched," Logan said. "Ricky doesn't ditch," Tina said. "He's just always late." Britt looked between them. "Well, we all know where he's going around 5 p.m., she said. "Langford," Tina said. "The alley," Jesse said. "Behind the laundromat," Logan added. Britt nodded. "So that's where we're going after school?" "Yep." Logan picked up a fry. "What if he's already there?" he said. "Like lying in the alley, just like the picture?" They sat with that thought for a second. The noise of the cafeteria went on around them as if nothing important was happening. Someone yelled across the room about a basketball game. A teacher told them to sit down. "We go anyway," Britt said. "If he's there, we call the popo. If he's not, we still have to know. I cannot sit at home wondering if that picture is walking around out there waiting to happen." Jesse took a drink of chocolate milk. It tasted stale. "What if it is nothing?" Tina said. "What if we go and it's just an alley and we all feel stupid?" "Then we feel stupid," Britt said. "I can live with stupid." Logan snorted. You already do. She looked at him unamused. I'm gonna let that slide, for now. Jesse reached down and touched the camera through the canvas of his bag. He could feel its shape through the fabric. It felt heavier than textbooks. After last bell, he said. Meet at the bike rack. We'll head over. Your house first? Tina asked. Drop our stuff? Yeah, my house. Then Langford. Cool beans, Logan said. Field trip to Murder Alley. Tina laughed. I know it's all fun and games and stuff now, but maybe we should save the murder jokes for after we find out that he's okay. What? I'm coping. This is me coping. We'll cope quieter. A grape rolled across the floor under their table, bumped Jesse's shoe, and kept going. He watched it bounce into the path of someone's sneaker and burst. The bell rang not long after. Kids stood, the scrape of chairs louder than usual in his ears. They dumped trays, shoved past each other, the normal rush toward the rest of the day. They walked out of the cafeteria together. In the hallway, the crowd pulled them in different directions like a raging river of adolescence. Tina toward science, Logan toward shop, Britt toward art, Jesse toward his locker. The afternoon moved slow. The clock in every room seemed to drag, second-hand ticking instead of sweeping. Teachers talked about things he could not hold in his head. The war, algebra, something about photosynthesis, something about a powerhouse. He kept snapping back to the same image, the white border of the Polaroid, the red on the pavement. Between classes, he checked the hallway again. Part of him expected Ricky to appear, backpack half zipped, saying something dumb about oversleeping, but he never did. By the time the final bell rang, Jesse's nerves felt shot. He went to his locker, shoved books in without caring where they landed, then slung his bag on his shoulder and headed outside. The air had cooled a little. The sun was still bright, but it had that late afternoon slope to it. Kids poured out of the doors toward buses and bikes, toward cars where parents waited with engines running. Logan was at the bike rack already, spinning his front wheel with one hand. Tina stood beside her bike, helmet hanging from the bars. Britt walked up a moment later, folder tucked to her chest, hair pulled back in a messy knot. You all set? Jesse asked. Logan nodded. Got my will written. Tina rolled her eyes. Can you be serious for 5 minutes? He lifted his hands. That was serious. Britt looked at Jesse. You got it? He patted his bag. Yeah. She nodded. All right, let's drop our stuff at your place, then go see about an alley. They got on their bikes and pushed off the curb. The school grew smaller behind them as they pedaled down the street. The camera knocked a steady rhythm against Jesse's hip. None of them talked much. They all knew where they were headed. Chapter 3. Jesse's house was quiet when they rolled up. His mom's car was gone. The curtains in the front window were half closed, the TV glow faint behind them. He unlocked the front door and let them in. Shoes, he called over his shoulder. Yes, Mom, Logan said, kicking his Vans off. Tina and Britt lined theirs up beside the mat. Jesse dropped his sneakers in a heap and led them down the hall. The basement door creaked when he opened it. They clomped down the stairs, each step giving a little squeak. The familiar smell hit him as soon as they reached the bottom. Dust, popcorn, the plastic of the lava lamp, laundry detergent drifting in from the next room. Jesse dropped the bag on the couch and pulled the camera strap over his head, setting the Polaroid on the coffee table. Logan looked at the TV. We got time for Mario? Nope, Jesse said. We gotta get ready and go, bro. Word. Britt pointed at the mini-fridge in the corner. We at least got time for fuel. I am not facing Murder Alley uncaffeinated. Tina nodded. Yeah, I second that. Jesse crossed to the fridge and pulled the door open. Cold air rolled out. 2 cans of Pepsi, 3 cans of Mountain Dew, 1 weird off-brand orange soda nobody ever wanted. He grabbed all 3 dews and tossed them one at a time. Logan caught his. Want a race, chumps? He said. Britt snatched hers out of the air. Yep. Tina shook her head. Y'all are children. But I'm winning. You taking the orange one then? Jesse asked. Give me that Mountain Dew. He handed her the third can. They all stood around the coffee table, 4 cold cans sweating in their hands. On 3, Logan said. 1, 2, 3. 4 tabs cracked at the same time. Fizz hissed. Jesse tipped his head back and drank. The soda hit his tongue sharp and sweet, bubbles crowding his throat. It burned in a good way. Logan gulped loud, already half a can down. Britt kept pace, eyes closed like she was meditating. Tina coughed after the first few swallows, but didn't stop. Jesse forced the last of it down and crushed the can in his hand. Done, he gasped. Logan slammed his empty can on the table a second later. You cheated. How do you cheat at chugging? Jesse said. You got a bigger throat with all that yapping you do, man. It's not fair. Britt wiped her mouth on her sleeve and burped quiet into her fist. I regret none of that. Tina finished last and set her can down, eyes watering. My heart is going to explode, she said. I can hear colors. They sound delicious, don't they? Logan asked. Then burped, long and loud. Britt flicked a popcorn kernel at him from the bowl on the table. Jesse picked up the empty cans and dropped them into the trash by the stairs. The metal clattered. Flashlights, he said. In your laundry room, Tina said. On the shelf. He went through the open doorway into the unfinished part of the basement, flipped on the bare bulb, and found the 2 plastic flashlights sitting beside the detergent. He tested both. One flickered on strong. The other made a weak yellow cone. He brought them back. Only got 2, he said. I will take the blue one, Britt said. It matches my spirit. Jesse slid the better flashlight through a loop on his backpack strap and zipped the pocket. They headed back upstairs, grabbed their shoes, and stepped outside. The sun had shifted while they were in the basement. It sat lower now, light warmer, shadows stretching long across the yard. The air still had that bite, but the soda buzz in Jesse's veins made it feel almost good. They hopped on their bikes. Logan pushed off first, rolling down the driveway and out into the street, one foot up on the rear peg for a second before he settled on the pedals. Tina followed, then Britt. Jesse went last, the camera bouncing lightly against his chest with each bump. Straight down Fairview, Jesse called. We can cut past the hardware store. Copy, Logan said. They pedaled past the small houses, each one a variation on the same theme. 2-story, siding, little patch of yard. Sprinklers ticked in slow arcs, leaving wet stripes on the brown grass. Somewhere a dog barked itself hoarse behind a fence. A little kid in a red hoodie sat on the curb, lining up Hot Wheels in a row, watching them with more seriousness than most adults gave the news. They swung past the hardware store. Mr. Beasley was dragging a rack of rakes inside, his belly pushing against his apron. He glanced at them, gave a quick nod. You kids staying out of trouble, he called. Always, Logan shouted back. They rode on. The closer they got to Langford, the quieter Jesse felt inside. The town around them still made noise. Cars going by, somebody's radio bleeding out the latest chart song, a lawnmower buzzing 3 blocks over. But under it, in that place where you feel things before you can name them, something had started to pull tight. They turned off the main road onto a narrower one. The houses here looked more worn, paint peeling on fences. A cat watched them from under a car, eyes bright in the shade. Langford is next one up, Tina said. She knew the streets better than any of them. Her aunt lived over this way. They hit the corner. The street sign above them read Langford Street. The green paint faded. One of the bolts rusted. They turned down Langford. The first few houses were familiar in that generic town way. Siding, steps, small yards. A woman in a denim jacket smoked on her porch and gave them a quick, wary look. Someone had a plastic pool in their yard, turned upside down for the season. Weeds poked through the cracks in the sidewalk. Halfway down, Jesse started to recognize things. The chain link fence on the left, bent in at the top where someone had climbed it too many times. The narrow store on the right with the faded sign that read Langford Laundromat. Soap powder smell seeped out through the open door. There, Britt said. The alley gaped between the laundromat and the next building. If you weren't looking for it, you could walk right past. It was just a dark slice between walls, a square of cracked asphalt running back to a rusted dumpster and a stack of milk crates. It looked smaller in real life than it had in the picture. They coasted to a stop in front of it and put their feet down. "That's it," Logan said. "Yeah," Jesse said. They had not realized they were going to feel anything seeing it. They just expected it to be an alley. Concrete and trash and maybe some graffiti. But something crawled along their arms now, raised the hairs, made the back of the neck sting a little. The air in the alley was cooler than the street. Shade pooled in there like water. Tina rolled forward a bit, front tire almost at the mouth of the alley. Britt slid off her bike and let it rest against the wall. "Come on," she said. "Come on what?" Logan asked. "We didn't ride all the way out here to look from the street." She stepped into the alley. Her sneakers scuffed on the cracked pavement. Jesse followed, pushing his bike along by the handlebars. The smell hit him first. Damp, a little sour, like old laundry and trash that had not fully gone bad. The laundromat's exhaust fan hummed on the wall above, blowing warm air that smelled like soap and lint. The brick walls rose up on either side, close enough that if he stretched his arms, he could almost touch both. The dumpster sat near the back, lid half open. A few old milk crates were stacked beside it, one cracked on the corner. Jesse's brain kept trying to match the real space to the photo in his head. This is where Ricky was running. This is where he turned. This patch of ground, right here, is where his body was in the picture. The ground looked the same as any other alley. Cracked asphalt, small stones, a crushed cigarette butt, a flattened soda can, empty brown paper bags with old 40-ounce beers in them laid about. No blood, no chalk outlines, no cops, no tape, no act of murder. "See," Logan said, stopping beside him. "We got all freaked for nothing." Britt walked ahead a few more steps and turned in a slow circle. "I don't know, man," she said. "This spot feels weird." "You're always feeling something weird," Logan said. "Shut up, butt nugget." He crouched and touched the ground where the red had been in the picture. The asphalt felt cool under his fingertips. He wiped his hand on his jeans and stood. "Well, no one's dead," Logan said. "Can we agree on that?" "Yeah," Jesse said. Tina nodded. Britt put her hands on her hips, surveying the scene like a crime detective. "Nothing here," she said. "Not yet, anyway." Tina swallowed. "Do you feel that?" she asked. "Or is that just me?" They all paused. Jesse did a quick inventory of his own body. His stomach was tight. His breathing felt shallow. His hands were a little shaky. He could hear his own heartbeat in his ears more than usual. "Yeah," he said. "I feel something." "Same," Britt said. Logan stared down the alley. "I kind of feel like I'm going to throw up." "Maybe that's from all the soda," Tina said. "Maybe," he said, but his voice was flat. A breeze moved through the alley. Not strong, just enough to rattle a loose piece of plastic on the dumpster. It should have felt good, cool on his face. It did not. It felt like someone walking past him in a crowded hall. Too close. "I think we should go," Tina said. "We just got here," Britt said. "I know, but I feel kind of weird, like I'm not supposed to be here." Jesse looked back at the street. The slice of daylight out there looked brighter now. The sound of a passing car, the clank of someone pulling clothes out of a dryer inside the laundromat, all sounded a little far away, like through a wall. He adjusted the camera strap on his neck. "Yeah," he said. "We came, we saw it, we know it's a real place. No one's dead. That's enough for me today." Britt opened her mouth like she wanted to argue, then shut it again. "Fine," she said. They started walking their bikes back out. Jesse was the last to step from the shade to the light. It felt like emerging from a cold, dark water into the light. A strange feeling none of them could really place, as they'd never felt it before. It felt foreboding. It felt like dread. They pushed off together, rolling slowly at first, trying to put distance between them and the strange feeling creeping up. They had just started to pick up speed when they heard a sound, faint and thin, somewhere behind them. It could have been a cat yowling, a kid yelling, a tire squeal. It hit their ears sideways, out of nowhere. It sounded more like a scream than anything else. They braked without thinking. Back tires skidded a little on the pavement. "You hear that?" Jesse said. Britt's tire squeaked as she stopped. "Yeah," she said. "I did. It sounded like a scream." Logan rolled another yard before he fully stopped. He turned his bike around, one foot on the ground, the other on a pedal. "Yeah, not a fan, bro. We should go. I don't really like disembodied screams from alleyways," he said. Tina coasted back to them, eyes wide. "Sounded like someone yelling," she said. "Like scared yelling." They all turned to look back down the street toward the alley. From here, it was just a dark slice between buildings again. Nothing moved. The laundromat door stood open. A kid walked past, dragging a plastic bag of clothes, not even glancing toward the gap. "Could have been anything," Logan said, but quietly. They all waited. The breeze moved a loose flyer stapled to a telephone pole. A crow landed on a wire and shook it once, cawed at them, then flew off. Tina blinked and looked away. "Yeah," she said. "That's our cue. Let's go." They turned their bikes toward the cross street again. The feeling seemed to ride with them, sitting somewhere between their shoulders, following them home while the town carried on like nothing had happened at all. The feeling of being watched, being followed, by something that was always right up on the back of your neck until you turned around to see nothing. Chapter 4. Ricky Langton left the comic store at sunset. He had issue number 12 of The Werewolves of Dark Star in a plastic sleeve, still warm from the rack. The bell over the door jingled once behind him. He walked the cracked sidewalk with his head down, reading as he went. Street lights flickered on one by one, humming faintly. The air smelled like rain that hadn't decided whether to fall. Panels of the comic glowed under the light like inked moonlight, shredded bodies, a wolf the size of a truck howling over a ridge. His sneakers scuffed the pavement in a steady rhythm. 2 blocks from the store, he stopped reading. He didn't know why. Something inside his chest had gone tight. He folded the comic, slid it into his backpack, and slung the strap higher on his shoulder. The wind shifted. A low sound rolled through it, a growl so deep it barely made a noise, more like a vibration felt in the chest. He turned his head. Nothing behind him but parked cars and a paper cup rolling down the gutter. He started to walk a little faster. At the next intersection, a light changed from yellow to red, clicking as it did. He waited on the curb as the cars went past, trying not to look behind him. He kept seeing dark shapes move at the edge of his vision, but every time he looked, there was nothing there. He crossed. His shoes slapped the asphalt. Each step felt louder than the last. Something scraped concrete somewhere close. A heavy drag, followed by the slow tick of claws on the street. He stopped, listened. The sound stopped too. He swallowed and kept walking. The houses here sat farther apart. Fewer cars, windows dark. The wind pushed through the trees and left a dry hiss in the leaves. He could hear his own breathing now. Then another breath joined it. Deep, low, and wet. An animal, and it was somewhere behind him. He broke into a light jog. The sound followed, pads hitting pavement, claws dragging faster. He looked back once. Something big and dark was coming at him from the shadows. He ran. A trash can tipped somewhere behind him. Lids clattered. Something big moved through the dark like a shark cutting through water. The smell hit next. Wet fur, sour sweat, and rot, like a dead dog in summer heat. He reached the corner of Langford and almost slipped on loose gravel. His backpack bounced against his side. He could see the laundromat sign ahead, its buzzing, weak yellow light. The growl came again, closer now. He turned his head. It stepped out of the dark. Tall enough to scrape the street light with its shoulders. Muscle stacked under matted fur. Claws like knives dragging sparks off the pavement. Teeth too long for its skull, slick with spit. Its breath steamed in heavy clouds. Eyes bright yellow, wide, locked on him. It stared at him for a moment that seemed to stretch forever. Then it opened its mouth. A howl ripped through the street. It was ear-piercing and terror-inducing. Windows shook. The air itself seemed to pulse with it. Ricky ran, and he ran hard. He cut hard left, shoes slapping. The alley yawned ahead, narrow and black. He hit the turn too fast, shoulder scraping brick. The howl behind him turned into pounding footfalls. He ran harder. The world blurred. His lungs burned. A sound like thunder hit behind him. Claws skidded on the asphalt. He tried to jump, but a shadow rose over him, blocking the light. The thing hit him mid-stride. Panic exploded across his back as claws ripped through his jacket, his shirt, his skin. He went down hard. The concrete tore his palms. He kicked and screamed. Nothing came out but a rasp. The creature's breath hit the back of his neck hot and wet, stinking of blood and bile. Then its teeth sank in. It tore into him violently. Flesh peeled. Bones cracked. He tried to crawl, but one arm didn't work anymore. The beast yanked him back by the leg, teeth sinking deep. It shook its head once, twice, snapping tendon and bone. A leg came free with a wet pop and hit the ground like a sack of meat. The world went white. He felt himself pulled apart, piece by piece, ribs crushed, air forced out of him in a hot spray. The sound of his own bones breaking filled the alley. The beast bent low and fed, claws digging into the pavement, breath fogging in heavy bursts. When it was done, it lifted its head, muzzle black and red. It looked through the streetlight and blinked once. Then it dropped what was left of him, turned, and disappeared into the dark. The wind returned. The hum of the laundromat sign buzzed softly. A loose page from Ricky's comic drifted out of his torn backpack, fluttered once in the air, and landed in a puddle, ink bleeding, the wolf on the page howling up at the moon. Chapter 5. The day started like any other. Hallway noise, lockers slamming, teachers calling kids in before the bell. The same smell of pencil shavings and cafeteria grease drifting through the vents. Jesse walked half asleep to homeroom. He hadn't slept right. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the alley again, that dark slit between buildings and the way the air had felt thick inside it. He dropped into his seat, backpack on the floor, head down. Mr. Alden came in with a stack of papers. He looked off somehow, slower. He set the papers down, rubbed the bridge of his nose, then leaned on the desk. "All right," he said quietly. "We'll wait on roll call for a minute." He stared at the window for a few seconds. When he turned back, his face had that careful look adults get when they don't want to scare you but know they will. "I need everyone's attention," he said. "The principal is making rounds this morning instead of using the intercom." The room settled. Chairs creaked. The door opened and the room went quiet. Mr. Danner, the principal, stepped in. Mr. Alden moved to the side of the board, hands on his hips surveying the students. "I need everyone's attention," Mr. Danner said. "I figured this would be better if I made a personal visit to each class. I have a bit of unfortunate and deeply saddening news." The room settled. Chairs creaked again, then went silent. He looked over the rows of desks. "Some of you may have known a student named Ricky Langton." The name hit Jesse like a gut punch. He looked up fast. "There was an incident last night," Mr. Danner said. "Ricky has passed away." The words just hung there. No one said anything. One girl near the back made a small sound, half gasp, half choke. A pencil rolled off a desk and hit the floor, sharp in the quiet. "It's being looked into by police," he went on. "Right now I don't have details to share. If anyone needs to speak with the counselor, or if you feel like you can't focus in class, you can tell your teacher and they'll send you down. I'm deeply sorry." He stood there for a few more seconds, like he might say something else, then just nodded once and walked out. The door clicked shut behind him. Mr. Alden picked up the attendance sheet again, hesitated, then set it down. "Okay," he said. His voice sounded thinner than usual. "Open your books to Chapter 7. And that was it. The death of Ricky narrowed down to a brief morning news flash. Life tried to start up again like nothing had been broken. Pages turned, pencils scratched, a chair squeaked somewhere. Jesse sat there, hearing his own pulse hammer in his ears. By lunch, everyone knew. The cafeteria buzzed with it. Bits of rumor passed between tables. People said they found him on Langford. People said it happened late. Nobody really knew anything, but they all acted like they did. At their table, nobody touched the food. Logan spun his straw in his drink, eyes on the table. Tina sat with her tray in front of her, picking at the edge of the napkin. Britt stared out across the room at nothing. "This is messed up, man," Logan said quietly. "We saw it. We literally saw it coming." Tina's voice came out small. "And we still couldn't stop it." Britt stared at her tray. "We were standing right there," she said. "That exact alley. It could have been us." No one spoke after that. The noise of the cafeteria went on around them. Laughs, trays, voices, but it all felt far away, like a soundtrack from another world. The bell finally saved them from having to keep pretending they were okay. That evening, the four of them sat in Jesse's basement. The lava lamp was on this time, dull orange blobs drifting slow in the glass. The camera lay on the table where they'd left it, lens facing the couch like an eye. The television played the 6 o'clock news. The anchor's voice was calm, practiced. "Police responded to a call early this morning on Langford Street, where the body of a teenage male was discovered. Sources close to the investigation say the injuries appear consistent with an animal attack. Authorities are advising residents to keep pets indoors at night and to report any sightings of stray dogs in the area." A picture of Ricky flashed on screen. School photo, forced smile, bad haircut. Then the anchor moved on to the weather. The sound of the newscaster's papers shuffling filled the room. Then the hum of the fridge. On the screen, the weatherman smiled and pointed at a cartoon sun. Upstairs, his mom moved across the kitchen floor, the sound of her footsteps ordinary, harmless. Down here, nothing felt ordinary anymore. It felt empty. Chapter 6. Jesse hadn't turned the basement light off since the night before. It was still burning when he got home from school, a tired yellow spilling through the doorway. He stood at the top of the stairs for a second, backpack slipping off one shoulder, and just looked down there. The Polaroid was still on the table where he'd left it, half hidden under an old towel. He hated how much space it took up in his head. He dropped his bag by the couch and sat. The air smelled faintly of dust and detergent. His mom's car wasn't in the driveway. She was working late at the diner. It was quiet except for the hum of the basement fan and the soft tick of the clock on the wall. He thought about Ricky Langton's desk, still empty that morning, about the principal's voice breaking the silence of every room. He thought about how they'd all just sat there while Mr. Alden said, "Turn to chapter 7, like it wasn't real. The knock came soft and quick. 3 taps, pause, 1 more. He got up, climbed the stairs, and opened the door. Logan stood there with his board under one arm, his jacket half-zipped. "You look like hell," Jesse said. "Thanks, bro." Logan stepped inside. "You call the others?" "Texted. Britt said she's getting Tina and they'll be here in a bit." Logan nodded and dropped his board beside the couch. He looked around, hands in his pockets. "It smells in here, man." "It's the popcorn bowl. I forgot to dump it." "Yeah. Well, you probably should." He walked over to the table and pulled the towel back an inch. The black plastic of the camera stared up at them. "Still there," he said. "Yeah." Logan let the towel drop. "You sleep last night?" Jesse shook his head. "Me neither." They sat without talking for a while. Logan fidgeted with his watchband. Jesse picked at the armrest threads. The basement window showed nothing but late afternoon light, pale and distant. Footsteps on the porch. Then Britt's voice. "Yo, open up, nerds." Jesse went up again and pulled the door open. Britt and Tina came in together, both still wearing backpacks. Britt handed him a plastic grocery bag. "Brought supplies?" Inside were 3 cans of Mountain Dew and a pack of Oreos. Jesse gave a dry laugh. "Cool. We can sugar rush our way through this hell." "Exactly." Tina hung back a step, looking around the living room like she half expected someone else to be there. "Your mom home?" "No, she's working late." "Good," Britt said. "She doesn't need to hear this." Logan grabbed a can from the bag and cracked it open with a hiss. "God bless the dew," he muttered, taking a long drink. Britt sat on the arm of the couch, eyes on the towel. "Is it under there?" Jesse nodded. She sighed. "Of course it is." Tina crossed her arms. "All right, so we gonna talk about this elephant in the room or just keep pretending this isn't the most messed up thing that's ever happened to us?" "Go ahead," Jesse said. "Fine. We took pictures of a kid. He died. We all saw him die in those photos. Then he really did. That's not coincidence. That's cause and effect." Logan looked up from his drink. "You think the camera killed him?" "I think it showed it before it happened," Tina said, "which means it's connected somehow. Maybe it doesn't kill people, but it knows who's about to die. Or it makes it happen. Either way, that thing shouldn't exist." Britt opened her Oreo pack and said, "It's gotta be cursed." Logan groaned. "Here we go." "No, seriously, dude," she said. "You buy something from a creepy old lady at a flea market who talks like she's straight out of the Twilight Zone? It's not blessed, okay? This is textbook curse stuff." Textbook? Logan said. Yeah, horror movie textbook. She bit an Oreo and talked through the crumbs. You don't sell a camera that can see the future unless you're in on it, or trying to get rid of it. She said, be careful what you capture, Jesse said quietly. Tina turned to him. She what? That's what she said when I paid her. Be careful what you capture. I thought she was being weird, like flea market fortune teller weird. They fell quiet again. The fan whirred. Someone's soda fizzed and bubbled. Tina rubbed her forehead. So, what do we do? Jesse stared at the towel. Take it back. Britt nodded. Agreed. Back to the flea market? Logan asked. Where else? Tina said. She's not going to just refund us. We're not asking for a refund, Britt said. We're telling her to take it back. I'll throw it at her face if I have to. Jesse gave a small nod. We go after school tomorrow. Why not now? Britt said. Because it's closed by now. You've seen that place. Half the vendors are gone before sunset. Tina looked toward the covered camera again. So it stays here again? All night? Jesse shrugged. Where else would it go? Outside, maybe, she said. In the trash? And if someone finds it? She didn't answer. Exactly, Jesse said. It stays here till morning. Britt tossed the empty cookie wrapper onto the table. What if she says no? I don't give a good darn heck, Jesse said. She's the one who sold it to us. She's going to take it back. They let the silence fill the room again. It wasn't comfortable. Tina stood and stretched. All right, I gotta go before my dad starts calling every police station in the county. Britt stood too. I'll walk with you. They both started for the stairs. Logan stayed on the couch, quiet for once. When the door closed upstairs, he said, You think they're right? That it's cursed? Jesse didn't answer. Logan leaned back, staring at the ceiling. They sat another few minutes. The kind of quiet where nobody needs to say anything because the words would only get in the way. When Logan finally left, Jesse stood alone in the basement. The towel still covered the camera. He could see the outline of it under the fabric, the shape of the lens pushing up like an eye. He unplugged the lava lamp, turned off the fan, and headed up the stairs. Later that night, he couldn't sleep. Every time he shut his eyes, he saw Ricky's face again. The picture from the camera, the scream frozen there, caught forever. He rolled over, stared at the clock. 1:07 a.m. He thought about the flea market, the smell of dust and old wood, the woman's cracked hands. Be careful what you capture. He thought about how small her booth had been, like the walls were closing in. At 2 a.m., he went downstairs for water. The house was dark and still. He stood at the sink, glass half full, staring through the window into the backyard. He turned to go back upstairs and froze. The basement door was open just a crack, maybe 2 inches, enough to see the thin line of light underneath. He set the glass down carefully, his pulse climbing. He waited, listening. Nothing. He told himself he probably didn't close it all the way earlier. That was it. He crossed the kitchen, pushed it shut, and turned the deadbolt. Then he went back to his room, waiting for the sun to appear. Chapter 7. The next day felt twice as long. Every class, Jesse watched the clock more than the board. The hands didn't move so much as crawl. Notes blurred. Teachers talked. None of it stuck. Ricky's empty desk was still there in homeroom. Somebody had put a stack of extra worksheets on it like it was any other seat. That bothered him more than if they'd left it bare. By lunch, he had a headache. Nobody at their table talked much. They didn't bring the camera up. They didn't have to. It sat under everything, like a sound only they could hear. After last bell, Britt said finally, picking at the edge of her juice box straw. Meet at the bike rack. No bailing. No bailing, Jesse said. They scattered to last period. When the final bell rang, kids poured out like the building was on fire. Jesse went to his locker, swapped books without really looking, and headed outside. The air had that late afternoon feel again. Not hot or cold, just there. Logan was already at the racks, one foot on his bike pedal, the other on the asphalt. Tina showed up next, then Britt. Nobody looked excited. They just looked tired. You got it? Britt asked. Jesse patted his backpack. He could feel the corners of the camera case through the fabric. Yeah. They got on their bikes and started pedaling. The metal clank of chains and the soft grind of tires on pavement kept them company for a while. So, what exactly are we saying? Logan asked finally, eyes on the road. Like, what's the script? We don't need a script, Tina said. We walk up, put it down, say, this thing is no good, take it back. That's the whole speech. And if she says no? Then we figure it out, Britt said. Love the detail in this plan, Logan muttered. Do you have a better one? She asked. He didn't. Nobody did. They cut across Maple, past the strip of shops and the bus stop where the same three old guys always stood smoking and talking. One of them lifted his hand as they went by. Jesse lifted his back out of habit. The flea market lot came into view at the end of the block. Cars lined the gravel section. The usual hand-painted signs leaned against posts. Fresh kettle corn, vinyl records, antiques, tools. They rolled up to the bike rack near the entrance and locked their bikes without talking. The metal clinks sounded loud. Inside, the market was its usual maze of folding tables and tarps. The air smelled like fried dough, sweat, and old cardboard. Voices overlapped, sellers calling out prices, kids begging for toys, somebody's radio playing Bon Jovi too loud. They walked in a loose line. Feels different today, Logan said under his breath. Feels the same to me, Britt said. We're the ones who are different. Jesse led them down the row past the guy with the crates of cassette tapes, past the woman selling baby clothes, past the table stacked with mismatched dishes. He knew the way without thinking. The booth was right there where it had been. The beaded curtain still hung down the front, a wall of dusty plastic colors. Behind it, the same crooked shelves, the same clutter, brass junk, old dolls, jewelry tangled in piles. And her. She sat in the folding chair behind the table like she hadn't moved since Sunday. Same shawl over her shoulders, same big glasses, same gray hair wound up tight on her head. Her eyes found Jesse the second he pushed the beads aside. You came back, she said. Jesse stepped in, the others close behind. The booth felt smaller. The air inside was warmer. He swung his backpack off and set it on the table. His hands felt clumsy on the zipper. He pulled the camera out and put it down in front of her. We're done with it, he said. We want to return it. She looked at the camera, not touching it. Return it? Yeah, he said. It's messed up. We shouldn't have bought it. We're giving it back. Broken? She asked. Yes, Tina cut in. It doesn't take pictures of what we aim it at. The woman looked at her. Ah. Britt stepped up beside Jesse. That kid who just died, Ricky, you knew, didn't you? You knew what it would do. The woman's face didn't change. Names are not my concern. You sold us a camera that shows people dying, Britt said. Is that not your concern either? The woman reached out and finally touched the camera. Just 2 fingers on the top. Light. like she was testing if it was real. "It is doing its work," she said. "You are the ones who gave it eyes again." "What the hell does that mean?" Jesse said. "We thought we were buying a regular camera, not something with eyes. We don't want any part of this, so you can have it back, and we can all pretend this never happened." He slid it closer to her. "You cannot put it back," she said. "It has already been used." "The hell does that mean?" Logan asked. She looked at him over the top of her glasses. "The game is started. The first piece moved. You cannot unmove it." "We didn't start any game," Tina said. "You bought the tool," the woman said. "You aimed it. You pressed the button. The first life has been taken. That debt is yours." "We didn't kill Ricky," Jesse said. His voice came out sharper than he meant. "Something in that alley did. We saw it on the news like everybody else." She tilted her head, studying him. "Did you look away when you pressed the shutter?" He didn't answer. "You watched," she said. "All of you. You watched the pictures come. You talked over them. You argued with them, but you kept them. You brought them home. You fed them with your eyes. That is how it grows." "We were scared, lady," Britt said. "Fear is a god. Fear is as good as worship," the woman said. "You made it real." "Okay, enough," Logan said. "You're talking like this is some board game. It's a camera, it takes pictures, that's it." "Then why are you here?" she asked. Jesse took a breath. "Look, we don't care about your gods or games. We're not playing. If it's cursed, fine. Be cursed on your own time. We're dropping it off and that's it. You deal with it." He took his hand off the camera like it was hot. The woman looked at the Polaroid for a long moment. Then she smiled, small and tight. "Young man," she said, "you have already given me one. You owe me 2 more. "What?" Jesse asked. 3 is the number this time," she said. 3 in the set. 1 has been paid, 2 remain. Tina frowned. "No, that's not how this works. You don't get to just decide that. We're not doing anything else. We're done." The woman glanced down into her lap. Until that moment, Jesse hadn't noticed she was holding something there. She brought it up slowly and set it on the table beside the camera. It was a small figure about the size of her hand, twisted straw for the body, thin sticks for arms and legs. Its head was a little bundle of cloth tied tight, with 2 black stitches where eyes might be. Red thread was wrapped around its middle like a belt. "What is that?" Logan said quietly. She stroked the top of the doll's head with one crooked finger. "A reminder," she said, "of what you are asking me to undo." "We're not asking you to undo anything," Jesse said. "We're asking you to take back what's yours. That's it." She chuckled once. It was a dry sound, like leaves scraping concrete. "It was never mine," she said. "It came into my keeping, that is all, for a price, and now it is in yours for another price." "You got our $15, Logan said. "That's the price." $15 is nothing, she said. "Paper and ink. I deal in something older." Britt's voice was tight. "You're talking about people." "I am talking about balance," she said. "Nothing comes into this world without something going out. You have already opened the door, and now you're surprised when the wind blows in." "You sound insane, lady," Tina said. "We're leaving." She started to turn, but the woman's hand moved faster than Jessie would have thought she could. Her fingers tightened around the doll. She twisted it hard until the straw creaked. Then she lifted it to her mouth, spat on its cloth head, and whispered something in a language none of them knew. The beads at the front of the booth rattled. Footsteps on the other side. Jesse turned. His mother stepped through the curtain. She still wore her diner uniform. Pink blouse, name tag, apron hanging slightly crooked. Her hair was pulled back like always when she worked. But her eyes weren't right. They were open, yes, but they looked past him, not at him, like she was staring at something far away. "Mom?" he said. She didn't answer, didn't even blink. She just walked in, slow and steady, and stopped when she reached the table. His stomach dropped in a way that made his knees go weak. The woman picked up something small and silver from beside her chair. A straight razor. Old, with a worn bone handle. She flipped it open with one thumb. Casual, like this was habit. Then she took Jesse's mother by the wrist. "Hey," Jesse said, voice cracking. "Hey, don't!" The woman turned the wrist palm up and laid the blade across it. The skin there was pale and thin, faint blue lines beneath. "One has already been paid," she said calmly. "Two remain. If you refuse, I will take them where I can find them. Blood for blood." "Stop it," Jesse said. He reached for his mom, but Britt grabbed his arm. "Don't," she whispered. He shook her off. Mom, what's wrong with you? Wake up." She didn't move, didn't even look at him. Her face was slack, not relaxed, not tense, just empty. The razor pressed down a little. Not enough to cut deep, but enough that the skin dented under the edge. Tina's voice came out thin. Okay, stop, we get it." The woman ignored her. Her eyes stayed on Jesse. "You carried it home," she said. "You fed it with your curiosity. You brought your friends into it. You brought the first life to its door. That makes this your debt, boy." "You think we wanted Ricky to die?" Jesse said. "What you wanted means nothing," she said. "What you did means everything." The razor shifted in her hand, just a fraction, enough that a thin, dark line appeared under it on his mother's skin. Jesse felt something in him break loose. "Stop," he said. Please stop." "Say it," she said. "Say you will play." He swallowed. His throat felt raw. We'll do whatever you want. Just leave her alone." The woman turned her head slightly. "All of you," she said. "This is not a game for one." Britt's voice was a whisper. "We'll do it." Tina's eyes were glassy. "Okay, we'll play," she said. Logan swallowed hard. "Yeah," he said. "Fine." The woman nodded once. She lifted the razor from his mother's wrist. No blood spilled, just that faint red mark where the edge had pressed. She snapped the blade shut and set it down. Then she took the little straw doll again, straightened it gently, untwisting what she had twisted. She brought it to her lips, spat on it once more, and murmured something soft. "Go," she said. Jesse's mother blinked. Her shoulders twitched like something had nudged her awake. She looked at the table, at the old woman, at the clutter, then at Jesse. "Oh," she said, frowning a little. "You're here." Her voice was normal. Confused, but normal. Jesse tried to breathe. "Yeah," he said. "We were just looking." She glanced around the booth. "You kids love old junk, I swear." She gave a tiny laugh. "I'm on my break. Thought I'd see if they had any old Pyrex for your aunt. Guess not." The woman behind the table smiled. It looked different now. Softer, Nothing here for you today, dear, she said, in a voice that sounded almost pleasant. Jessie's mother nodded. All right, I'd better get back. They'll burn the place down without me. She started to step away, and Jessie half moved to follow. The old woman's eyes snapped to him. The look stopped him in his tracks. His mom paused at the beads. Be home by 6, she said over her shoulder. And don't buy anything that smells or has bugs. Okay, Mom, Jessie said. His own voice sounded far away. She pushed through the curtain and was gone. The beads rattled once, then settled. For a second, nobody said anything. Jessie thought he might throw up. The woman picked up the doll and set it back in her lap like it was a sleeping cat. There, she said. She's fine. She will not remember coming here later on. None of them remember. That doesn't make it better, Britt said. It makes it easier, the woman said. Tina's eyes were wide with the shock of what just happened. What do you want from us? I have already told you, the woman said. 3. That is the number this time. 3 to feed it, and 3 to feed me. 1 has been taken, you will bring me 2 more. We're not killing anybody, Jessie said. You misunderstand, she said. You do not swing any blade. You do not pull any trigger. You lift it, you click. It does the rest. That is the bargain. We could just not use it, Logan said. Her eyes sharpened. I can just kill that bitch of a mother, too. The way she said it made Jessie's skin crawl. 2 more, she repeated. In 7 days. If not, it will have what it wants from those closest to you. It has tasted your house already. It knows the way. Jessie thought of the basement door cracked open at 2 a.m. The light he was sure he'd turned off. He felt cold all over. You can't just do this, Tina said. I just did, the woman said calmly. Britt's hands were shaking now. You knew we were coming back. Of course, my dear, the woman said. Everyone does. Everyone? Jessie asked. Others before you. You didn't think you were the first, did you? Such ego on you kids these days, she said. Children, grown men, it doesn't matter. The pattern is the same. Curiosity, fear, bargain, debt. How does it end? He asked. She smiled. It ends when 3 are taken. Then it sleeps again, for a while, until someone else brings it into the light. There's nothing we can do? He asked. Die, or watch the ones you love die, she said. The woman pushed the camera back toward Jessie. You may go, she said. 2 more, 7 days. Nobody reached for it. She raised one eyebrow. Or should I call your mother back now and cut that bitch's throat? Jessie grabbed it. The plastic felt icy. He slung the strap over his neck, more to free his hands than anything. It hung heavy against his chest. Britt backed up first, bumping into the beads. They clacked around her shoulders. Tina followed, eyes never leaving the woman's face. Logan lingered half a second longer. You're a witch, aren't you? He asked. She smiled. Why, yes, dear. A witch of the oldest variety, she said. He said nothing back. They stepped out into the aisle again. The noise of the flea market rushed at them all at once. Radios, voices, somebody hawking hot dogs at the far end. The light seemed too bright. They walked away from the booth without talking. Only when they were past the pool tables and the cassette guy did Britt finally say, I feel sick. Same, Tina said. Logan blew out a breath. She's a witch, man, he said quietly. Holy shit, bro. Jesse didn't say anything. He could feel the camera bumping against his chest with every step, like a second heartbeat. They just kept walking. Chapter 8. Britt and Tina walked up the driveway together, shoes scuffing on the concrete. Logan arrived alone and leaned his bike against the porch rail and waited like he always did. Jesse opened the door and let them in. The Polaroid was in the middle of the living room table where he dropped it that morning. He had not put it away. He had not washed his hands since the flea market. His mom's apron lay folded on a chair, the little coffee stain still on the corner. "No speeches," Britt said as she dropped her backpack and sat on the floor. She moved automatic, like this was another sleepover and not a debt weighing on them. She reached into her bag and took out the flashlights they'd grabbed the other day and set them on the table. Tina put her hands on her knees and folded them together. "Let's bury it," she said. "Out past the Miller place, no one goes out there. Deep, cemented under something. If it can't get light, maybe it can't do anything." Britt shook her head once. "That would be fine if we could agree the camera is just some object. But the woman said she'll literally kill Jesse's mom, then someone else we all know." "Yeah, you saw what she did," Jesse said. "You saw how my mom walked in like some lifeless mannequin and just offered her a wrist." "No, I vote we do what she said and give her what she wants so we can be done." Britt leaned forward. "How about we try to talk to someone else, not the cops, someone who knows old folklore or witch stuff? Mrs. Calder at the library? The history club teacher? There has to be a record of something like this. Maybe once we know the mechanics, we can fix it." Tina nodded. "I'm cool with that. I mean, we've got 7 days. Britt made a list on her phone and read it off. "Okay, 1. I'll hit the library and Nina's dad who collects old local stories. Logan talks to his uncle. He's good with wood and old stuff. He might know how to seal something. Tina contacts Mrs. Calder. Jesse," she looked at him, "you keep it safe and keep an eye on your mom." There were no arguments. No one needed to persuade anyone else. They set the camera in the center of the table and put a towel over it. Jesse's phone buzzed. It was a text from his mom. "Running late. We'll be back by 6. He just stared at the message and then turned the phone face down. "All right," he said. "You all know what to do." Britt zipped her bag. "I'll call you when I'm done at the library." Tina nodded. "Mrs. Calder's home by 5. I'll talk to her before dinner." Logan lifted his keys. "Uncle Dave's got a shed full of junk and stories. I'll see if he knows anything about witches." They left together, talking low as they went out to the driveway. The sound of their voices faded, and the house fell quiet again. Jesse stood there for a moment, listening to the silence they left behind. The kitchen clock ticked, a soft, dry sound. He turned on the TV for the sound, but muted it after a minute, then tried the radio. Just static. He shut it off and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. The afternoon crawled. He made a sandwich and didn't finish it. Checked the window twice to make sure his mom's car wasn't home yet. Every time the refrigerator motor kicked on, it made him jump a little. Around 5:30, he heard a small, heavy grunt. Upstairs. He froze. Waited. Then came another sound. Something shifting. The creak of weight on a floorboard. "Mom?" he called. No answer. He got up slow, heart thudding in his chest, and moved to the base of the stairs. "Mom?" he said again, louder. Still nothing. He climbed, one step at a time, each tread giving that soft groan old wood makes. The hall light was off, the last of the daylight stretching thin across the carpet. His mother's door was half closed. He could see the edge of her nightstand through the gap. He knocked. "Mom, you home?" Nothing. He pushed the door open, and there was his mother, asleep, lying on her side, the blanket half pulled up. The light from the hallway caught her face in a calm, steady rhythm with each slow breath. And standing over her was the woman from the flea market. She didn't move, didn't blink, just stood there at the side of the bed like she had grown out of the floor. Her glasses were gone. Her eyes were small and bright. In her right hand was the razor blade, thin and silver, catching the light with a dull shimmer. "Can I kill the bitch now, Jesse?" she said. He couldn't speak at first. His throat had locked up. When he finally found words, they came out small. "No, please, just leave. We're gonna do what you wanted." The woman tilted her head, the razor glinting as it turned. "Where are your little friends?" she asked softly. "Researching? Looking for a way out?" Her voice was calm, almost kind. "Well, this is the way out. I remove your mother's fucking head, Jesse, and you get to watch." She reached down. The blade touched the blanket. He stumbled forward, hands out. "No, please." She stopped, looked at him, a smile forming on her lips, wide and sharp. "Then tell your little friends when they get back there is no way out. Give me what I want or I will take it." "Okay," he said quickly. "Okay." Her eyes stayed on him a moment longer, and then she seemed to collapse in on herself and was gone. It was like watching empty clothes just fall to the ground, then disappear. Jesse stood there shaking. His mother stirred, sighed, and rolled over without waking. He took a step back, then another. The smell of dust and old perfume filled the air. He wanted to yell for someone, but there was no one to call. He went back downstairs to the camera. For a long time, he just stared at it. At 6:30, his mom came downstairs. She came into the room humming. "You want dinner?" He swallowed once. "I'm good, Mom." He sat there till full dark, waiting for the others to come back, staring at the towel and trying not to think about the way the lady looked standing over his mother. Chapter 9. They got back after dark. Jesse heard the front door open, voices low and tired, shoes on the hardwood. He hadn't moved, still staring at the towel-covered lump in front of him. The single bulb overhead painted everything a flat yellow. His back hurt from how long he had been hunched there. The basement door opened without a knock. Feet started down the stairs. Britt came in first. Hair pulled back, face a little flushed from the air outside. Tina followed, arms folded tight across her chest. Logan was behind them, hands jammed into his jacket pockets. All three stopped when they saw him. Britt was the first to talk. "I went through the whole folklore section," she said. Her words came quick, like she had been holding them in on the way over. "Found some stuff about cursed objects, old town stories, that kind of thing, but nothing about cameras, nothing this specific. Just the basic be careful what bargains you make kind of crap." Tina nodded. "Mrs. Calder said it sounds like an old world binding." Her words. She tried to smile. It did not land. "Basically, if you invite something in, you are stuck until whatever it wants is paid. That was the vibe." Logan blew out a breath. "My uncle talked my ear off about haunted tools and junk. Nothing helpful. Said witches are bitches." He shrugged. "So we got a whole lot of nothing." Jesse hadn't looked at them once while they talked. His eyes were still on the towel. Britt noticed first. "Okay," she said quietly. "What's up?" He finally looked up. His face looked like he had aged a year in the few hours they had been gone. "She was here," he said. They all went still. Tina stepped closer. "Who?" "The old woman," Jesse said. "She was in my house." Britt swallowed. "Where?" He held her gaze for a second. "In my mom's room." The basement seemed to shrink around them. He licked his lips, looked back at the towel, then started talking. "I heard something upstairs, like somebody shifting around. I thought maybe my mom came home early. I called up, she didn't answer, I went up. He paused, seeing it again. She was asleep, on her side, just sleeping, and that woman was standing over her, razor in her hand, smiling at me. She asked if she could kill her now, Jesse said. His voice stayed level, but his eyes started to twitch a bit as he tried to hold back tears. Said this was the way out? Said she could take my mother's head off, and I would have to watch? Jesus, Tina whispered. I told her no, Jesse said. I told her we would do what she wanted. She asked where you guys were. Said you were out researching, trying to find a way out. Then she told me that there was no way out, just the game. Give her what she wants, or she takes it. He exhaled slowly. She told me to tell you that, he finished. No one said anything for a long moment. The bulb buzzed faintly overhead. Did she hurt your mom? Britt asked. The razor touched the blanket, he said. That was enough. Then she just kind of fell in on herself. Clothes hit the floor, then nothing. Mom never woke up. A few minutes later, she came downstairs like nothing happened, asked if I wanted dinner. She had no clue anything happened. He looked over at them, eyes tired. So that's it, he said. No loopholes, no research fix, no bullshit. We do what she wants or she kills my mom. Maybe all our parents. Maybe us. The silence stretched out for what felt like an eternity. Logan broke it, his voice low. Okay, he said. So do it then. Take the picture. Jesse stared at them for a moment, then looked back to the camera. He nodded. All right, he said. Let's do it. He tugged the towel off the camera and picked it up. His fingers felt stiff around the grip. He thumbed the switch, wound the mechanism. The camera made that small grinding sound, practiced and calm. He raised the camera. The body felt heavier than it should. He didn't aim at anything specific, just held it level toward the blank far wall. His finger hovered over the shutter button while the others watched. Just breathe, Tina said softly. He took one breath, then another, and pressed. The flash exploded in the small room, sharp and white. Then the light was gone and the world shrank back to the circle of the bulb overhead. The camera whirred and a white square started to slide out. Jesse grabbed it before it fell, flipped it, and slapped it face down on the table. He kept his palm on it. The card felt warm and slightly damp under his hand. After a moment, Britt said, Let's see it. He pulled his hand back. She looked at the card like it might bite, then reached out with 2 fingers and turned it over. They all leaned in. At first, the image was still finishing, colors settling into place. The outlines were already there, though. A narrow hallway, a blurred picture frame on the wall, a runner rug along the floor, mid-motion. A woman running straight down a hallway, body pitched forward, hair flying out behind her. Her eyes were wide, white showing all the way around, mouth open in a silent scream. One hand was reaching forward, the other flung back as if she had just pushed off something. Jesse's stomach dropped. That's Mrs. Rhine, Tina said slowly. Mrs. Rhine, their English teacher, the woman who leaned on the podium and talked too long about symbolism, the one who sometimes gave them extra time on essays if they looked tired, the sweet lady who always brought fresh homemade cookies and snacks in for the students. Britt swallowed. Shit. Logan stared. Oh man, why her? Because we know her, Britt said. It knows whose faces are in our heads. They kept looking at it, like if they stared hard enough, something would change. Nothing did. Mrs. Rhine remained frozen mid-sprint, mouth open, eyes full of pure panic. How long do we have? Logan asked. No idea, Jesse said. Last time it was, a day and a half? Britt asked. From when we took Ricky's pictures to when they found him? It was the next day, Tina said. They let that sit for a minute. You have to take 2 more pictures, remember? Tina said after a while. For Ricky, there were 3. Running, turning, dead. I don't think I want to see her dead, Britt said. Me either, man, Logan said. None of us do, Tina said. But we don't really have a choice. Maybe we can do it and just not look? They all looked at Jesse as if he had the answers. He did not. I'll take the pictures, he said. You don't have to look at them. If for some reason someone has to see them, I'll look. It feels like this is my fault anyway. His hand was still on the camera. He could feel his pulse beating in his fingers. You ready? Britt asked. No, he said. But I'm going to do it anyway. He wound the camera again. The sound was louder in his ears now. That little grind, the mechanical click at the end. It sounded almost cheerful. He raised it, pointed at the wall, drew in a breath, and let it out. The shutter clicked. The flash burst again. He caught the second photo as it slid free. He flipped it, face down next to the first finished one, then put them into a neat line. The 3 of them just looked at the white back of the card like it was radioactive. Give it a second, Britt said. Her voice was rough. The seconds stretched. They felt each one. Okay, she said finally. It should be done cooking now. This time Tina reached out. Her fingers brushed the cardboard once, then lifted it and turned it over in one smooth motion. They leaned in again. Mrs. Ryan was in a kitchen, and she was falling. The camera had caught the exact moment her feet went out from under her. One foot was twisted awkwardly, half underneath her, like she had hit a slick patch on the floor. A splash of something dark and shiny covered the tile just behind her heel. Water, maybe, or oil. One hand was flung out toward the counter, fingers splayed, trying to catch something to hold onto. The other hand was tucked close to her chest. Her face was turning toward the camera. It was halfway between surprise and full horror. Her eyes were already starting to lock onto something, and the something was the photographer's position. Their position. There was a kind of directness in that gaze that made Jesse feel like he had been caught doing something terrible. She's looking at us, Logan said quietly. Like she knows we caused this. For a few long seconds, nobody moved. The pile of Polaroids in the corner of Jesse's mind grew heavier. Ricky running. Ricky turning into that alley. Ricky broken on the ground. Now these. We could call her, Tina said. The suggestion came out small. Warning is better than nothing. It won't matter, Logan said. We already know what's next. Calling might just make us seem more guilty than we really are when the cops start looking. Tina stared at the photos. I don't think I can watch this happen again. You don't have to, Jesse said. I'll finish it. He picked up the camera a third time. His skin felt clammy on the plastic. The weight dug into his palm. The strap swung a little as he adjusted his grip and settled against his forearm. He wound it. The noise seemed slower now, like the camera was tired too. Last one, Britt said softly. He raised it, pointed at the far wall again. The room lit up white. The light caught the edge of the metal fan cage, made a bright spot on the old Clash poster. Tina flinched this time. The camera whirred, familiar now. The third square edged out. Jesse plucked it free, flipped it, and dropped it face down. The minutes dragged into forever. I'll flip it, Logan said finally. Jesse stopped pacing. You sure? He nodded once. Yeah, man. I got it. then reached out. His hand hovered for a second, then settled. His fingers curled around the edge of the photo. He turned it over. The image developed had already finished. There was no soft blur now, no gentle fade-in. Everything was crystal clear, colors sharp under the yellow basement bulb. Mrs. Ryan lay on the kitchen floor, face down, arms bent at strange angles under her, palms turned upward. The tile around her was soaked in dark red. It had spread under her body in a jagged pool, running into the cracks between tiles, splashing up on the cabinets. It took them all a few minutes to understand what they were seeing, to understand what was wrong with the picture. Then it clicked all at once like a sick revelation. Her head was not where it was supposed to be. It had been cut clean from her neck and placed on the middle of her back, just above her shoulder blades, like someone had set down a bowling ball and left it there. Her face was turned toward the camera. The eyes were wide and bright, staring straight out of the picture, as if she was looking at them, like she understood what was on the other end of the lens. Her mouth was pulled into a slight grin. The blood on her cheeks had run along the corners of her mouth, making the grin look painted on. Her hair was matted to the side of her face in thick clumps. Britt ran to the bathroom and vomited into the toilet. Tina just stood there in shock. Jesse just stared. His stomach felt hollow and heavy at the same time. Logan felt empty inside, almost numb. Nobody spoke. The clock on the wall ticked and talked like a metronome of anguish. The 3 pictures lay in a neat row on the table, glossy and bright, catching the light. In the last one, their teacher's severed head grinned up at them, eyes locked on their faces, as if she knew something they did not. They just sat there in the dull yellow light, breathing, and let the horror of it hang in the room with them. Chapter 10. The popcorn was the only thing in the house that sounded alive. It rattled against the sides of the bag inside the microwave, sharp little explosions under the hum. Mrs. Ryan leaned one hip against the counter and watched the red numbers count down, arms folded, socked foot tapping a slow, lazy rhythm on the linoleum. From the living room, the TV carried in muffled sounds. The hiss of wind through trees, a shrill scream cut off halfway, music crawling up a scale the way only old slashers did it, all strings and nerves. Then that woman's voice came, high and shaky, drifting in like a nightmare. "That's my good boy, Jason. Mother is talking to you." The line made her smile in spite of herself. She had seen this one a dozen times. VHS tape in a worn cardboard sleeve, the kind of thing she would have scolded her students for watching on a school night, and then watched herself after grading. The microwave beeped. She snapped the door open and a cloud of hot, salty steam rolled up into her face. She squinted against it and tugged the bag out by its edges, fingers quick. She ripped the slutty bag open and poured it into a tall glass bowl. The kernels inside were pale gold and white, still shifting a little, like they had not quite decided to settle. She set the hot bowl on the counter and reached into the fridge for the butter. The stick inside the wrapper was half used, one end chopped flat from impatient mornings. She cut a good chunk off, dropped it in a mug, and put it in the microwave on low for a few seconds until it slumped into a yellow puddle. She poured the melted butter over the popcorn in slow streaks, tipping the mug from side to side, then picked up the salt shaker and turned it 3 times. After a second, she reached for the little jar of cayenne in the spice rack and tapped some over the top until thin red specks dotted the peaks. "Bad for your heart," she muttered. "Good for your soul." She shook the bowl to coat everything, little avalanches of white and gold sliding over each other, and breathed in the smell, the mix of butter and sharp pepper. It made her mouth water. In the other room, something crashed on screen. A body hitting a dock, maybe, or a cabin wall. The music flared again. She heard another faint snatch of the mother's voice. "Make them remember, Jason." She grabbed ice from the freezer, dropped a few cubes into a tall glass, and poured soda over it until it fizzed up to the rim. She leaned down and took a quick gulp, the burn in her throat sharp, sweet and crisp. The microwave clock read 8:47. Not too late. Enough time to finish this one, maybe write a few notes for tomorrow's lesson if she didn't fall asleep first. She tucked the remote under one arm, balanced the popcorn bowl in both hands, grabbed the glass with her fingers, and shuffled carefully out of the kitchen. The bowl was hot against her palms. The air in the hallway was cooler, carrying the faint smell of old books and lemon cleaner from this weekend's half-hearted attempt at tidying. She stepped into the living room and relaxed a little. This was her favorite place in the house. The lamp in the corner cast a soft pool of light over the couch and coffee table. The TV sat a few feet away on its little wooden stand, the VCR stacked beneath it with its tiny green numbers glowing. Bookshelves lined one wall, spines in uneven rows. There were old paperbacks there she had read 3 times, and newer ones she kept meaning to get to. The couch cushions sighed as she set the bowl down and dropped onto the middle spot. She nudged her slippers off with her toes, pulled the blanket from the back of the couch, and threw it over her legs. The fabric was worn but soft, a faded pattern of blue and gray squares. On the TV, a girl in a sweater was crying and begging. "Please, Jason," the mother's voice urged, trembling. "You have to finish this." Mrs. Ryan let out a slow breath and sank deeper into the cushions. She pulled the blanket up to her waist and scooped a big handful of popcorn. Butter slicked her fingers, and the first crunch between her teeth filled her ears. Perfect. Salt, fat, the sting of cayenne at the back of her tongue. On screen, a knife flashed. The girl screamed as the shot cut away, old-school style, just enough blood hitting a wall to make the point. The music screeched once, and then settled back into that steady, stalking crawl. She was midway through her second handful when she thought she heard something. A sound under the crunch, or behind it. She froze with the popcorn in a halfway chewed position in her mouth. She slowly finished the bite, trying not to crunch too loud, then swallowed and held her breath. The house answered with its usual vocabulary. The fridge motor kicked on, a soft thrum from down the little hall. The heater clicked. On the TV, someone was breathing hard. Leaves rustled. A door creaked. "Kill them," the mother's voice whispered again, thin and distant. She went back to watching and popped another piece into her mouth. The popcorn crackled and ground under her teeth, loud in her own head. Butter smeared the side of her thumb. She licked it absently, eyes on the screen. This time, she heard it clearly. A thump. Not the TV, not the fridge, not the soft house noises she knew by heart. It sounded like something heavy set down once, somewhere down the hall, just enough to register. Her hand stopped halfway from bowl to mouth. Salt stung a small crack in her lip. She found the remote by feel, never taking her eyes off the hall, and hit pause. The movie froze on the image of the lake at night, a thin line of reflected light running across it. The sudden quiet seemed to rush in from all sides. "Hello?" she called. Her voice sounded too loud in the still room. It felt wrong somehow, to say anything at all to what she knew should be her empty house. No answer came back. She waited. The living room clock ticked and talked on the shelf. Somewhere beyond the front windows, a car went by, the tires humming briefly on pavement. The tires humming briefly on pavement. Nothing else. "Probably the stupid water heater again," she muttered. She hit play again. The frozen lake shifted into motion, the camera gliding along it. On screen, a cabin door opened from the inside. She could hear the girl sobbing again, the sound thin with panic. She reached for her glass and took a long drink, the soda biting the back of her throat, the ice clinking against the side. That was when a crash came. This time it was not subtle. Something fell hard, wood or glass or both. The sound snapped through the house, sharp enough to jolt her spine straight. It came from down the hall, from the bedroom at the end, her bedroom. Her thumb hit pause again, almost without her thinking about it. The movie stopped mid-motion, the killer's shadow halfway across the wall. She sat there a full 10 seconds, the blanket pooled around her waist, the popcorn bowl heavy in her lap. Her mind filtered through possibilities in quick, stupid bursts. Picture frame fell, shelf gave out, neighbor kid throwing a ball, someone breaking in. The last thought landed and stayed. She set the bowl on the coffee table. Butter smeared the rim where her fingers had slipped. Her hands were a little slick, which annoyed her in some removed automatic way. This was not how she wanted to die, with greasy fingers and slasher movies on pause. She reached for the glass, took one more quick pull because her throat felt dry, then set it down harder than she meant to. She crossed the room and wrapped her hand around the handle of the fireplace poker. The cool metal steadied her a little. She tested the weight of it. It would do. She turned toward the hallway. It looked darker now, somehow. The short runner rug she had bought on sale last summer sat in its usual place, partway down, the rest of the floor bare wood. The shadows beyond the doorway to the kitchen on the right were thick and flat. "Hello?" she called again. "Who's there?" Only the silence answered, cold and empty. She tightened her grip on the poker and took 2 steps forward. "I've called the police," she said. "You should leave now. They're on the way." She hated how corny that sounded, like a line from a made-for-TV movie, but she said it anyway. Saying something felt better than saying nothing at all. She stepped into the mouth of the hallway. The carpet felt different under her feet. She was aware of everything at once, the way you got when you almost slipped on ice. The distant hum of the fridge, the faint, frozen glow of the paused TV behind her, her own pulse thudding in her ears. "I have a gun," she called, "and the cops are almost here." She did not own a gun. She hoped whoever might be down there did not know that. Each step felt like it took a little more of her courage with it. The walls seemed closer together. The family photos she kept framed on the left side, nieces and nephews and her parents, seemed to lean in, their glass faces catching bits of the light from the living room and throwing them back in thin lines as if telling her to run. Halfway down the hall, she heard a crunch. The sharp, layered sound of a shoe on broken glass, right at the far end, near her bedroom door. She stopped walking. The poker grew heavier in her hand. There was a breath after that, low and long. Every instinct she had told her to turn around and run. Somehow she managed to stay where she was. "Whoever you are, I asked you to leave," she said. "You need to go. Now." There was a heavy silence. Then something stepped out from the doorway of her bedroom. The shape was big and wide across the shoulders. The figure filled the doorway and then some, ducking just enough to clear the frame as it stepped into the light. Coveralls, dark, stiff-looking, streaked with blood. Boots that made heavy sounds when they hit the floor. A white hockey mask, old and scuffed, with black eye holes and little red marks around the edges. It turned slightly as it came into view, catching more of the light so she could see the edges of it, the straps crossing the back of the head, the curve over where the mouth would be. Behind the holes there was nothing she could really see, just darkness, but she felt the eyes on her. In its right hand, it carried a machete. The blade was long, down to the figure's knee, wide at the tip. It gleamed wet where it caught the thin light from the living room, and she saw what glistened on it, slow and thick, trailing from the edge in drops. Dark patches soaked the front of the coveralls, too, irregular and heavy, as if someone had pressed a loaded sponge there and squeezed. It stopped in the center of the hall, feet planted, the head tilted once, just a fraction, like a dog sizing up a stranger. The breathing filled the space between them, a harsh pull and shove of air through whatever was under that plastic. The smell was of wet wood, river mud, and rot. For a second, neither of them moved. Her throat tried to close. Her fingers dug into the poker until her knuckles ached. She had taught these movies for years, unofficially, analyzing them in essays, picking apart themes and fears and why people flocked to them over and over. She had written the line "violence as catharsis" on the board more than once. She had laughed with kids about masks and jump scares and fake blood. None of that helped her now. The figure's grip tightened on the machete. She could see it flex, the knuckles bulging under the glove. The blade angled down a little, then back up. Easy. Practiced. A scream ripped out of her before she could stop it. Then she turned and ran. Her bare feet slapped the wood. The hallway seemed twice as long now. The edges of the framed photos blurred as she sprinted past, poker still in her hand, breath coming in sharp, torn pieces. Behind her, she could hear him, those heavy steps, each one a solid thud of weight on the floor, steady as a drumbeat. She cut into the living room fast, shoulder brushing the doorframe. The TV still sat frozen on the paused frame, a knife halfway down in a teenager's hand. The room looked wrong now, like a set she had walked into instead of her own home. She aimed straight for the front door. The lock suddenly looked small, delicate, like a toy piece. She grabbed at it with both hands, fingers slick with butter and sweat, and fumbled for the deadbolt. It wouldn't turn at first. Her thumb slipped, the metal biting her skin. "Come on," she hissed. She heard the footsteps reach the hardwood behind her. The bolt finally gave, an ugly little clack as it slid. Her hand flew to the knob. She twisted. The door started to open a fraction. Cold night air touched her face. A hand the size of a dinner plate clamped down on her shoulder. The impact jerked her backward so hard her teeth clacked. Pain shot down her spine. She screamed, a raw, torn sound, more animal than word. The hand spun her around like she weighed nothing. He filled the hallway behind her. Up close, he seemed even bigger, almost 7 feet, shoulders as wide as a door frame. The hockey mask stared down at her. She reacted without thinking. She ducked under the arm that held her, dropping almost to her knees, and broke free. The poker smacked the side of her own thigh as she stumbled forward, but she kept moving. She did not look back. She bolted past the couch and cut through the narrow gap beside the coffee table, the bowl of popcorn rocking but not tipping. The paused screen watched her like a huge glowing eye. The kitchen opening yawned ahead, a square of dimmer light. She headed for it. She burst into the kitchen and skidded a little on the tile and turned to face the doorway with the poker held out in front of her like a spear. For a heartbeat, nothing came. Then he stepped into the kitchen doorway. He did not rush, he just appeared there, filling the frame. His chest rose and fell under the coveralls, each breath a deep drag. They stared at each other. She tried to speak and nothing came out. Her throat had gone tight and small. He moved. It was like watching a storm roll forward. 1 second he was at the doorway, the next he was crossing the space between them in wide, solid strides. She darted sideways, around the little kitchen table and into the dining room. He swung the machete, It cut through open air with a sound like tearing cloth and thunked deep into the table edge, sending a hairline crack running through the wood. She rounded the end of the dining table and cut back toward the kitchen doorway on the other side, making a rough loop. Her sock slipped a little on the polished wood, but she caught herself with one hand on the back of a chair and pushed off. Behind her, those heavy boots hit the floor in a steady pattern. Thud, thud, thud. She shot a glance over her shoulder and saw him come through the threshold, machete raised. She hit the kitchen again, breath burning now, and made another loop, forcing him to follow. She knew on some level that this was stupid, that she couldn't outrun something that seemed built to chase, but her body refused to stop. Second lap. Into the kitchen, around the table, back into the dining room. She clutched the poker harder and swung it once at him when he came too close, the metal ringing off the side of a chair instead of his arm. The third time she hit the tile, it was different. She did not see it. The spill on the floor was just a darker patch near the sink, the remnants of butter and soda splashed together when she had come for her drink earlier. Her sock hit the slick spot mid-stride. Both feet shot out from under her. The poker flew from her hand and clattered away, hitting the baseboard and spinning under the small table. For a strange, weightless moment, she was hanging in the air, her arms pinwheeling, eyes wide. Then, gravity grabbed her and she slammed down onto her back. Her head cracked against the tile, filling her vision with white sparks. Air whooshed out of her chest in a heavy grunt. She lay there stunned, looking up. The kitchen ceiling stared blankly back, a plain white expanse with one old water stain near the light fixture. A slow ache pulsed at the back of her skull. A shape moved into view above her. He stepped into the frame like something entering a shot. His boots stopped just past her feet, toes pointing toward her. She could see the tread pattern, dark and wet in places. He loomed over her, blocking much of the ceiling. The mask looked even worse from below, tilted down at her, black eye holes turned into pits. The machete was in his hand, raised slightly, the tip glinting. Her body came back to itself with a jolt. "No," she gasped. "Please." He reached down and grabbed a fistful of her shirt near the collar, hauling her up a few inches and slamming her back down. The impact shocked through her spine. She felt more than heard herself cry out. There was nowhere to go. Her heels scrabbled uselessly on the tile, catching nothing. Her hands flew up, pushing at his wrist, at his arm, at anything she could reach, but his grip might as well have been iron. He raised the machete. The blade hovered over her, the edge catching the kitchen light, slick and dark in places where something still clung to it. For an instant, it hung there, and she saw her own face reflected in the metal, small and warped. She screamed. The sound bounced off tile and cabinets, turned into a jagged echo that filled the room. The machete came down. The first hit drove the breath out of her. Pain flared, bright and unbelievable, and then turned into a hot, spreading fog. Her hands clawed at his arm, at the floor, at nothing. He did not stop. The blade rose and fell, each impact a heavy shock that shook her whole body. Her scream broke and stuttered, then turned into hoarse, wet sounds, then into nothing at all. When it was over, she lay very still on the kitchen tile, the front of her shirt soaked and dark. The room smelled like metal and butter and something else she tried not to name as her mind drifted. She was dimly aware of rolling, of rough hands turning her. Her cheek pressed against the cold tile now. Her arms slid to the side. She was on her stomach now. She could feel the many wounds in her belly leaking out warm blood all around her. He climbed onto her back with one knee, pinning her in place. She couldn't move, could barely feel anything but weight and a distant ache. She tried once more. The word came out as a rasp. Please. It was the last full word she managed. The machete touched the side of her neck. More pressure. A sawing drag, followed by back and forth hacking and cutting. Then, nothing but a roaring noise inside her head. The world narrowed to the blurred pattern of the kitchen floor, a smudge of spilled butter, a bit of cayenne pepper that had fallen there earlier, a tiny red dot in a field of white and gray. The light seemed to pull away from her, then fold in. Silence. For a while, there was no sound at all in that room but the faint drip of something hitting tile and the slow tick of the clock on the far wall. Then, there was movement again. The figure raised the head up from the floor and held it close, turning it slightly as if examining a work of art. The hockey mask tilted, regarding the face in his hands. Muscles in the bodiless face slackened. The eyes twitched, then went wide. The corners of the mouth eased, then slid into a light grin. He lowered it carefully and set it down on the still form beneath him, right between the shoulders, arranging it so the eyes faced the room, staring straight ahead. The fridge hummed. A cartoon magnet on the door tilted and fell, clacking softly as it hit the floor and slid through a smear, turning its bright little picture dark. The figure stood, breathing deep, and stepped away from the body, each movement heavy and unhurried. The machete hung at his side again, its edge dull in the low light. He left prints where he walked, dark tracks that moved across the kitchen and out of frame. He passed back through the dining room. A chair sat at an angle, knocked aside in the chase. It rocked once as he bumped it with his leg. He moved through the house like a shadow crossing in front of the frozen screen, then on toward the front hall. The front door stood slightly open from when she had first tried to get out, the night pressing against the narrow gap. He stepped through it. The porch light threw his shape long across the small concrete stoop and into the yard. For a heartbeat, he was a silhouette there, a tall, broad figure with a blade in one hand and the pale oval of the mask turned toward the street. Then, he moved off the step and into the dark between houses. The shape dissolved into shadow. The night took him back. The school. The morning had the same thin blue light, the same strip of sun on the bus stop, but everything felt like it had been tuned down a notch. Jesse kept his hand on the camera strap through the crowd as if that small familiar weight could steady him. It did not. It only made the worry heavier. They drifted into homeroom like a single body that had been pulled by the collar. The room smelled the same as it always did. Pencils and cheap floor cleaner and the faint, familiar bleach of the bathrooms. Mr. Alden stood at the front and took roll in that calm, flat way that teachers did when something terrible had happened. When he reached Ricky Langton's name, he paused for a second longer than usual, then moved on. It was small, perfunctory, like the world was a machine that had suddenly skipped a gear. At 10:45, the principal walked into every classroom. He moved through the rooms with that careful, practiced step people learn when they had to deliver bad news. "I am sorry to interrupt," he said in Mr. Alden's class. "I will be brief. As you may have heard, there was an incident last night. Mrs. Rhine has passed. We do not have all the details yet. The police are investigating and will release a statement when they can. If anyone needs to speak with a counselor or wants to sit out of class, we will make that available. Please be respectful and check in with someone if you need to. That is all." He left, and the air filled with the sound of chairs scraping and the soft shuffle of people turning pages, the small motions that make life go on. Some of the kids around them whispered. Somebody muttered, "It's a serial killer," quietly, and a ripple of nervous laughs followed it. The rumors started even before the bell could finish its ring. Somebody said animal attack. Somebody said burglary gone wrong. Somebody said it must be a local man with a history. The words circled and landed in the same place. It was something violent, something hungry, something bad. Why do they always say that? Britt asked under her breath. Serial killer. Like this town is a pulpy movie set? Tina shrugged. Because that's what they know. It's what they've been telling us forever. Don't talk to strangers. Everyone is out to get you. There's a monster in your cereal box waiting to pounce. It's easier to make monsters than it is to look a little deeper. The day moved like wet wool. Classes blurred into each other. At lunch, they ate in a gray stupor. Conversations bobbed around them like small boats on a heavy sea. At some point, someone in the cafeteria started a thread about reports on TV and whether you could get attacked by a wild dog, and whether it was possible that someone had just been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Jesse felt a claustrophobic shame. He had the photos. He had seen what the future looked like, and for some reason, the universe had chosen their faces to keep it. He kept picturing the way Mrs. Rhine had looked in the third photo, the way she grinned. When the final bell rang, the four of them walked out together toward the bike racks. The sun was already easing toward afternoon, and the shadows of the maple trees reached long fingers across the pavement. Someone called out about a game after school. Routine threaded itself through the edges of the day and tried to stitch over the wound. They rode through a neighborhood that smelled faintly of cut grass and oil from an old Chevy. At the edge of town, they turned off the paved road and slid down the narrow path that cut through the trees. The path dipped and climbed in small humps. Sun filtered down as long, broken bands across the carpet of dry leaves. They walked their bikes through the brush until the path leveled near a little clearing. It was the place where kids left things, a scrape on the map that existed to be secret. You could stand there and listen to nothing but the wind and the far muffled sound of traffic. It was always a good place to get away. Jesse stopped in the center and sat on his bike. He pulled the camera out. The strap was dusted. "I'm done," he said. He should have sounded angry. He sounded thin. "Throwing this thing away." "No," Britt said. "We don't get to get rid of it. Remember? We have to finish this." Jesse looked at them for a second, and then, like it was a decision he had been preparing to make all day, dropped it in his palm. He took a running leap into the air and hurled the camera as far as he could into the trees. It arced and landed in a slap of dry leaves with a soft choking sound. There was a strange, tiny feeling of release, as if the weight in his stomach had finally been set aside. For a moment, he was lighter. For a breath, there was real air in his chest. They stood and watched the rustle where it had landed, the leaves settling like a small animal. For a second, they waited for the camera to move. It lay motionless. Someone in the clearing far up the path laughed, a lone sound that seemed small and ordinary. Then the woods changed. It's hard to say which thing shifted first. The path did not so much darken as it seemed to sink in upon them, the air pressing down. The sounds moved a fraction of a second. The wind fell out of the trees, and somewhere a bird stopped mid-call and did not start again. The hair rose along Jesse's arms. It was the same dread he had felt on Langford, only thicker now. It felt like a hand on the back of the neck. Around them, the light shifted into green and shadow. The forest had always been loud in its own way, a chorus of twigs and the soft glide of small animals. Now the noise receded like the pull of a tide. The world sounded empty, as if it were listening. Then, from somewhere a dozen paces to their left, the old woman leaned out from behind a thin trunk and waved. Her glasses caught the light. She smiled wide, friendly, benign, as if she had stopped by to borrow sugar. The woman held up both palms. "Hello, dearies," she called. Her voice slid in the trees like a leaf. "What a fine day to be in the woods." She did not look like anyone who should have been in the woods. She looked like something that belonged to a much older story, a stitch in the edge of the world. She stepped out and then stepped back behind the tree, as if she had not meant to be seen at all. A laugh came through the trees, as if a dozen small voices had been stitched into one. The sound that answered was not a laugh. It was deeper. It was the breaking of wood and the rustle of something large. The ground seemed to answer the movement with a low, resonant thud. Something huge stepped between the trees. It came on all legs and then pushed up to two and towered into a form that should have been a man but was not. It moved like it had never had a human bone in it. Its legs were long, bent at odd angles. Its arms reached almost to its shins. The head sat high on a neck that rose like a pole. It wore a crown of antlers, big and branched and draped with dead leaves and twine. The antlers framed a face that was all gaps and absence. Where a face should have been, there was a skull, pale and streaked with brown and red. Rags of tissue clung to the bone like old curtains. Strips of something dark hung from its shoulders and shivered when it moved. It smelled like rain on iron and rot. The thing paused in the clearing like a slow, obscene statue. The antlers caught the light and threw branching shadows across the small clearing. It turned its head with a sound like branches scraping. It looked at them. The old woman stepped out fully now, turning from behind the tree with flawless grace, as if she had been practicing that motion 1,000 times. She walked close to the great thing. They seemed to know each other. She patted its flank like one might calm a horse. Its breath fogged the air in hateful little clouds. She grinned at them, then spoke. Her voice was smooth and bright. "How are the photographs coming along, dears? Have we got a third one yet?" Her smile was the same as the one she had given Jessie at the flea market, the same small, weathered grin. All around them, everywhere they looked, she would pop her head out from behind trunks, peering from the shadows as if the whole forest were studded with her. They were not sure how many of her there were. For every head they saw, 2 more seemed to bloom from other trunks. Then she appeared right in front of them. "Pick it up," she said, in an angry parent type of tone. Tina's knees went weak. The creature shifted its weight and clicked something that might have been a rib against a tree. "What is that thing?" Britt whispered. Logan spoke, the name falling out before they understood where it came from. "The Skinwalker," he said then, half surprised at the word that had been in his mouth. "I just read about them last night. The Skinwalkers of Enchanted Realms. There's a chapter on things that take faces and wear skins. That's what they look like. That's their leader. It tears flesh away and drinks the insides." "Stop reading horror comics, Logan," Tina said. The big thing planted the pads of its hooves into the leaf litter and looked toward the woodline like a predator-smelling wind. It cocked its head. Something low and hungry rolled in its chest. Jessie felt the hairs along his arms lift. The old woman took a slow step forward. She put her fingers into her mouth and made a small noise, like calling a cat. The sound that came back was a wet, long thing, the enormous exhale of the beast. It answered her like an old servant. "Are you going to take the next picture?" she asked, as if asking about a favor. "Or should I just take your mother's head and send my pet here after the rest of you little shits as parents?" Jessie looked down. On the leaf mulch at her feet, the corner of the Polaroid flashed like a white shell. The old woman tilted her head and smiled like a proper host. "Pick it up," she said, pointing with one thin finger. They moved like people in a dream. Jessie stepped forward, boots crunching dry leaves, and knelt. The air was thicker now. The creature's nostrils flared. Its antlers scratched the low branches. The woods were dead still now, like it had turned its back on them. He slid his fingers under the camera and picked it up. The woman smiled as though they had done something kind. "Good boy," she said, the words soft enough to be a caress. Then she turned, and with an effortless motion, her and the beast disappeared into the leaves like a dream. They stood for a long moment, breathing hard. The Polaroid camera sat in Jesse's hand. Britt looked at the camera, then at him. There were small tremors in her jaw. "She didn't give us a choice," she said. "Let's just do what we have to do and be done with this shit show." "I agree," Tina said, small and steady. They pedaled out of the clearing as if the wheels themselves were trying to claw free. The path seemed longer on the way back. In the distance, the town came back into view as they pedaled on into the night. Chapter 12. They rode back to Jesse's house without saying much. The sky had gone that flat kind of dark where color drains out of everything. Street lights were flicking on one by one, little yellow circles in the blue. The cold nipped at their faces and fingers, but none of them complained. They rolled up to the driveway, tires crunching over the gravel, and dropped their bikes by the porch. Jesse's stomach clenched when he saw his mom's car in the drive. Safe, for now. That was the trade. That was the rope around his neck. Tina wrapped her arms a little tighter across her chest. "Let's just get it done." Jesse nodded and opened the front door. His mom called from the kitchen. "Hey, honey, you kids want something to eat?" "No thanks," Jesse said. "We're going downstairs, working on a project." "What kind of project?" she asked. "A Polaroid project," Jesse replied. "Okay, keep it down. I'm watching my show." Her voice floated out easy, no hint of the razor she'd almost worn at her throat. It made Jesse's skin crawl a little, knowing what he knew, knowing what waited if they screwed this up. They kicked off their shoes in the hall, relaxed their feet, and headed for the basement door. The table in the middle of the room felt like the center of the universe now. Scratched surface, one leg shimmed with a folded TV guide. They sat. Jesse slid into his usual spot at the head of the table, if you could call it that. Britt sat across from him, Logan to Jesse's right, Tina to his left. The camera sat dead center, like some mouth waiting to be fed. For a long time, nobody touched it. Britt drummed her fingers lightly on the table. "All right," she said. "We know the rules. We know what happens if we don't play. Let's stop pretending there's going to be a secret option number 3 and just get this over with." Jesse took a breath. His hand looked pale against the dark plastic when he reached out. He felt like the room leaned in with him. He picked the camera up. The strap brushed his knuckles. He turned it over once, checked the back like he actually knew anything about film numbers. He didn't. Still, the small ritual helped. Winding the mechanism helped. He thumbed the wheel. The camera made that little grinding whir, the click at the end that said it was ready to capture something else it shouldn't. "You guys sure?" he said. "Not really," Britt said. "But do it." Logan closed his eyes for a second. "Rip the damn Band-Aid off, man." Jesse nodded once. He raised the camera, pointed it at the blank far wall. There was a brown smudge near the bottom where Logan had wiped pizza grease last summer. Jesse focused on that spot, a stupid detail to keep his hands from shaking. His finger hovered over the button. Images flashed through his head. Ricky's eyes, wide and white in the flash. Mrs. Ryan's head sat on her own back. The alley at Langford. The deer skull thing in the trees. The witch's hand patting its side like a pet. He pressed the button. The flash exploded, white and hot. The basement snapped into negative for a fraction of a second, all sharp bones and shadows. Then it was gone. The camera whined and spat out a new white square. Jesse grabbed it before it could fall and flipped it onto the table, image side up. They all leaned in at once. The photo was still milky, colors ghosting in from the paper's bones, gray shapes, motion blur, lines of light. Slowly, it tightened and sharpened. 3 figures formed. A man, a woman, a teenager. They were caught mid-run, all 3 going the same direction, toward the right edge of the frame. The man was in front. He had one arm stretched back like he was trying to pull the others along faster. The woman's hair streamed behind her, mouth open, face contorted. The teen was between them, shoulders hunched, eyes wide, turned half over their shoulder like they were looking back at something just outside the frame. The street around them was slick, light bouncing off the surface in yellow streaks. Streetlights arched overhead, their glow pooled in circles. Dark houses sat in the background, shapes hunched and vague, windows like tired eyes. "Looks like a whole freaking family," Tina said, voice quiet. "Shit," Logan muttered. Britt leaned closer until her nose was almost touching the photo. "Looks like it could be any street anywhere," she said. Jesse swallowed. There was something about the tilt of one of the poles, the way the wires sagged. Familiar. Like a taste you couldn't quite place but knew you'd had before. He pushed the feeling down. Britt sat back. "Okay," she said. "That's one. I'm not doing the sit around and wait thing again, I can't. Just knock out the other 2 back to back, Jesse, quick, before I puke." "Yeah," Tina said. "Dragging it out is worse." "I don't know, man," Logan said. "The quick stuff ain't exactly great either." Britt shook her head. "I'm serious, man, I can't do the slow reveal thing again. Just get it done." Jesse wiped his palm on his jeans. It left a faint, dark streak of sweat. He picked up the camera again. His hands felt clumsy now, movements too big. He wound the wheel. The sound was almost comforting now, an awful kind of familiar. "No waiting?" he asked. "No waiting," Britt said. He raised the camera. This time he didn't bother to really aim. The wall was enough. The room was enough. Hell, he could have closed his eyes. The thing was going to show him what it wanted either way. Click, flash. Second photo slid out. He snatched it and dropped it next to the first without looking. He wound the camera again before anyone could say anything. His heart hammered hard enough that he could feel it in his throat. Click, flash, whine. Third photo. He flipped it and laid it down in a line with the others, faces up, all 3 blank for a couple heartbeats before the ink and chemicals started their work. They sat. None of them leaned in right away. It felt like sitting around a bomb you'd already armed. The first photo, the one with the running family, finished coming into focus. The colors deepened. The textures sharpened. The man's jaw was clenched. The woman's eyes had tears in them. The teen's face was the worst. Some tight mix of terror and disbelief. The second photo started to darken. "Here we go," Tina said under her breath. They leaned in as the shapes moved from fog to clear. Same street, same people. Only now, the family wasn't upright anymore. They were on the ground. The man lay on his side, one arm at a bad angle. The woman was on her knees, reaching out toward something that wasn't in the frame, face twisted into a soundless scream that you could almost hear if you stared too long. The teen was half sitting, half fallen, hands up in front of them like they were trying to shield themselves from something coming down. They were all looking in different directions, but every gaze held the same thing. Shock, pain, pure animal fear. "Shit," Logan whispered. "It's like watching a movie frame by frame." "Except the movie is real people," Tina said. "I know that, Tintin," he said. Don't call me that dork." "What?" "Tin, bobin, banana, vanna, vovin." "That's enough," Britt said. Jesse felt something heavy settle in his chest. Every new picture made him feel like he was being pulled a little deeper into a hole he couldn't climb out of. He dragged his eyes off the second photo and looked at the third. It was still mostly white. Colors just started to swirl up from underneath like oil and water. Red came first. "Here it comes," he said. They watched in silence. The image bled in slow. Red spread across the lower half of the frame like spilled paint. Dark chunks of shadow in it resolved into shapes. A leg at an angle that didn't make sense. A shoe empty. A hand curled too tight, fingers stiff. Smears across the asphalt. There was too much of everything. Too much red, too many broken lines. You could tell there had been 3 people there. You could tell there weren't 3 people anymore. There were limbs and parts strewn out everywhere. Then, something in the background snapped into focus. A pole. Just a metal pole at first, standing at the corner of the frame, wrapped in that familiar chipped green paint. Above it, a flat rectangle, catching the camera's flash, letters ghosting in like they were being typed right then. Logan saw it at the same time. His hand shot out, finger jabbing toward the top corner of the photo. "Oh, shit," he said. Look, right there." Britt leaned back over the table, eyes following his finger. Tina forced herself to turn around again. The street sign finished coming into view. White letters on green. They all watched them fade in, one by one. Windrow. Windrow Drive. "Tilted pole," Logan said, his voice calm. "Little chip on the corner. You see that? The paint scrape? That's the one down your block, Jess." Jesse knew that sign. He'd ridden past it almost every day of his life. Walking to the bus, riding to the arcade, getting dragged to the grocery store, mailed Christmas cards at the blue box on the corner under it. He knew that sag of the wires overhead. The crack running from the curb out into the street. The squat fire hydrant in the background, half hidden behind the mess on the road. The shape of the house at the far edge of the frame. 2 stories, tan siding, white shutters that needed paint. His throat went dry. "That's my street," he said. The others looked at him. He felt their eyes on his face, but couldn't look away from the picture long enough to meet them. "That's my corner," he said. "Right out front. By the stop sign, that's the Millers' place." "The old couple?" Tina asked. He shook his head. "They sold it last year. New people moved in. Family from out of town. Dad, mom, kid. They keep their bikes in the garage. The kid's got that red BMX with the silver bars." His voice kept going even though part of him wanted it to stop. "I've seen them getting groceries out of their car. Walking the dog. They wave." The picture on the table did not wave. It just lay there, glossy and still. A dead future printed in cheap chemicals. Britt slumped back in her chair. She had gone a little gray around the mouth. "So that's it," she said. "She's not picking our parents this time. She's picking the folks next door." "They ain't next door," Logan said. "They're down the street." "Same difference," she snapped. "They're still people," Tina said. The weight in the room thickened. Jesse could feel it, like the air had turned to syrup. His ears rang a little. Then, all at once, they heard a sound. It was growing in intensity. A chainsaw. And faintly underneath, the sounds of people screaming. 3 people. Chapter 13. The house at the corner of Windrow was warm and yellow and full of the kind of noise that meant things were all right. The TV was already on in the living room. A blue screen, menu up. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre highlighted in white. The boy on the couch bounced his heel against the coffee table, staring at the title like he could make it start quicker by wishing it. "Mom," he called. "Come on, it's cued." "In a second," she yelled back from the kitchen. "I am not watching people get cut up without snacks." He smirked, picked at the sleeve of his hoodie, then reached for the remote and turned the volume down a notch. The theme music looped soft and eerie under the glow from the lamp in the corner. The living room still had that new house feel. Fresh paint, no dents in the baseboards yet. A few boxes stacked in one corner with books written in marker. A framed picture of the three of them leaned on the mantel instead of hanging, like it was still deciding where it belonged. From the kitchen came the sharp rattle of stove burners and the irregular pop of kernels. The smell of popcorn drifted out, buttery and familiar. A cupboard shut. Ice clinked in glasses. "Salt," Dad called. "Yes, on the salt," Mom said. "And not like a snowstorm this time. Your heart is trying to live." "We're watching Chainsaw cut teenagers up," he said. "Salt is the least of our worries." The boy grinned. He liked it when they talked like that, easy and joking. He hadn't realized how tense he had been in the old town until they moved here and the house kept feeling like this. Light, open. It was a new start, a new life, and he loved it. Mom came in first. She wore sweats and fuzzy socks and had pulled her hair up into a messy knot. She dropped onto the far end of the couch and tucked her feet under a blanket, then patted the cushion. "Get over here," she said. "You're too far. I need something to grab when I scream." "You always scream," he said, "even at gremlins." She narrowed her eyes. "They were creepy, and you know it. Scoot." He scooted, blanket rustling as she dragged half of it over his legs. Dad came in a second later carrying 3 mismatched bowls brimming with popcorn, salt glittering on top. Butter glowed at the bottom of each one in soft gold patches. He balanced 2 drinks against his chest with his forearm. "All right, my little monsters," he said. "Fuel for the massacre." He handed them each a bowl, then set the drinks on the table with a soft clink. Took his own bowl last and dropped into the recliner facing the TV. It made its familiar creak, the springs complaining. The boy took 1 handful and shoved it into his mouth. The kernels were hot and salty, butter slick on his fingers. "Hit play," Dad said. Mom grabbed the remote and did. The menu blinked away. The studio logo came up. That weird, grim voiceover about what they were about to see rolled out of the speakers, talking about a tragedy in Texas. Grainy footage, heat shimmer, people walking down a road. Dad settled back, already reaching for his drink. "Here we go," he said. They got 10 minutes in when they heard a sound outside of their patio door. "See what that is?" the mother said. Fine," the father said. He got up, walked over, and pulled the curtain back. The boy watched his father's shoulders tense, just for a second, then relax. "Nothing," Dad said. "Your mother's serial kill squirrels, probably." He let the curtain go, turned to come back. The glass behind him exploded. The sound was huge in the little room. A shotgun blast of shattering that seemed to split the air itself. The boy flinched backward on instinct, arms flying up. Cold air rushed in, riding on a spray of tiny glass pellets that peppered the carpet and the couch and the coffee table. Dad staggered forward, arms up, swearing. Something stepped through the ruined doorway. For a second, the boy thought his brain was still trying to process the movie. His mind shoved what he saw into familiar shapes and said, "That is from the tape. That is from the screen." Big man, mask, apron, heavy boots, chainsaw. It took half a second to realize there was no pause button here. No menu, no VHS static. The figure filled the space where the glass had been. The mask looked like it had been freshly made from someone else's face. Loose and horrible, eyes watching from dark holes that were not the ones stitched there. The apron hung, stained and stiff, over a huge chest. The chainsaw in his hands was big enough that it almost reached the floor. He could smell gas and oil, sharp and thick, cutting through the butter and salt. Cold air pushed in around the man like he dragged it with him. Mom screamed a frantic, panicked scream. Dad turned fully then, seeing him. The big man yanked the pull cord on the chainsaw in a violent, practiced tug. The motor coughed once, then caught. The sound filled the house, a ragged roar that shook the pictures on the wall. The chain spun up, fast and bright and hungry, teeth flashing. For half a heartbeat, nobody moved. Then everything broke. "Run!" Dad yelled. Mom grabbed the boy by the sleeve and yanked him off the couch. The blanket tangled around his legs, and he kicked free as she hauled him forward. Popcorn bowls went flying. Kernels scattered across the carpet like hail. One of the drinks tipped, dark soda flooding the table and dripping onto the floor. The chainsaw's roar got louder as the man stepped fully into the room. The busted glass crunched under his boots. He swung the saw once, testing the weight, then brought it back toward his body, teeth still spinning inches from his chest. Then he reached forward and laid it against the couch, cutting it in two in seconds, shrapnel and debris filling the air. The boy clung to his mother's arm and ran. Dad stayed half a second longer than he should have, as if some part of him could still fix this by stepping between his family and the big guy with the saw. Then the man surged forward with an ugly burst of speed, and Dad moved. "Go!" he shouted again. "Front door!" They bolted for the hallway. The house seemed to stretch and bend around them, every step too slow, every corner too far away. The noise from the living room followed, wild and sharp, the chainsaw's scream bouncing off the walls and turning where they turned. Mom's breath rasped in his ear as she ran. Her fingers dug into his arm hard enough to bruise. They hit the front entry, socks sliding a little on the wood. Dad's heavy steps thundered behind them. The chainsaw roared again, closer now. The boy did not look back. He could feel it. That was enough. "Door!" Mom gasped. He grabbed for the knob. It slipped once in his sweaty hand, then caught. He twisted and pulled. The door flew open, cold night air slamming into his face like a wall. The world outside was dark and big and indifferent. Streetlights burned in their cones of yellow. Mom shoved the boy ahead of her down the front steps. Dad barreled out behind them. The chainsaw screamed from the doorway. They hit the yard at a dead sprint, moving fast down Windrow Drive with nothing but the night in front of them and the thing from their TV closing in from behind. They ran. The night exploded with noise and light as the chainsaw tore after them. The sound shook in their bones, the teeth of it grinding through air and glass and whatever else it touched. The father led. Blood streaked across his face where shards had caught him when the door went. The mother was right behind, her hand clamped on her son's wrist, dragging him forward when his legs began to stumble. The big man came out through the doorway in a storm of broken glass, saw raised, motor screaming. He swung once, wide, and missed by inches. The blade tore through the side mirror of a parked car, glass bursting like ice. The sound drove them harder. They looped between cars, ducked low, slipped on wet asphalt. Each breath burned their throats. Every time the father looked back, he saw that hulking thing closing ground, each swing of the saw carving the air behind them. He grabbed his son by the shoulder, shoved him toward the next yard. "Go, go, don't stop!" The boy's lungs screamed, his shoes slipping in the grass. Behind him, the saw hit another car window, exploding it into a cloud of glittering shards that cut through the streetlight. A spray of glass raked across his father's cheek. He didn't slow. They turned around a tree, then another, looping back toward the street like frightened deer. The sound stayed with them. The roar never stopped. The mother tripped once, caught herself, kept moving, sobbing out breaths she didn't have time to take. The father tried to grab her hand. Missed. From a window at Jesse's house, 4 faces stared. The flash of movement outside pulled them to the glass. The sound of the saw hit them next. "Holy shit," Logan whispered. "Is that—" Britt didn't finish. Jesse was already moving. "It's fucking Leatherface!" He was halfway up the stairs before he knew what he was doing. The others followed. They burst out the front door into the cold night, feet hitting the porch, eyes wide and burning from what they saw at the end of the block. The family was there, running. The thing in the mask was behind them, saw high and throwing sparks. The mother turned to pull her son closer, and the saw caught her across the stomach. A single brutal swipe. The blade tore through her clean, the sound like 100 sheets of metal ripping all at once. She folded in half. Her upper body slid one way, her legs another. She was still somehow yelling "run" as she reached out, trying to grab the other half of her body like she could just put herself back together. The boy's scream cut the night open. The father turned, screaming too, and swung his arm like he could somehow fight it off. The chainsaw came around again in a backhand sweep, fast and mean. It hit him mid-thigh and kept going. He went down hard, blood spraying the pavement, his legs left in 2 uneven pieces behind him. "No," Jesse shouted. "No, no, no!" The boy dropped beside what was left of his mother, hands over his head, sobbing and shaking. The thing in the mask turned toward the 4 kids, the saw idling down to a rough growl. Jesse and the others stood frozen halfway down the street, too scared to breathe. The figure reached up, fingers thick and wet, and peeled the dead skin mask back. Underneath was the witch. Her face was the same as before, pretty and pale, and too small for the head it was now occupying. Her eyes found Jesse through the dark. She smiled. "Hey, Jesse," she said, her voice smooth and bright through the roar of the saw. "Watch this!" She dropped the wet, warm mask back down and stepped forward. The chainsaw screamed to life again. She brought it down on the boy. Fast, merciless. The first cut ended the screaming. The rest were noise and meat. She carved until there was nothing left to stand. Then she turned back to the father and worked through what remained of him. The saw hacked, jammed, caught, then bit again. The street ran slick and red. When she finished, she walked back to where the mother's body lay split open. She kneeled, tilted her head like she was admiring art, and dragged the saw through again until the sound broke into sputters. Silence came slow, broken by the wet drip of what was left of them. The 4 kids stood in the middle of the street, the air thick with the smell of gas and iron. The big man turned, mask crooked on his face. The voice that came from under it wasn't his. It was hers. "Don't forget to bring my camera back tomorrow," she said, sweet as syrup, "or I'll make you do this all over again." The saw coughed once and died. The figure went still, like the life in it had been cut loose. Then it dropped, heavy and hollow, hitting the pavement like a bag of rags. The skin and mask collapsed inward, folding on itself. A breath of cold air swept down the street, pulling the remains into the ground. When it was gone, the street was empty except for the blood and what was left of the family. The night went quiet again. The kids stood in shock. Chapter 14. They didn't talk on the ride. The sky hung low and pale, the air heavy, the kind that feels like it has already decided to rain but hasn't found the courage yet. The flea market sat quiet on its cracked lot. The banner that said Weekend Treasures flapped tiredly above the entrance. A few empty stalls lingered open like mouths missing teeth. The kids pulled their bikes up crooked and set the tires in the bike rack. The camera sat in Jesse's hands, cold and dense. Inside, the building smelled of dust and old carpet. The air was still. They followed the same aisles they'd walked what felt like a lifetime ago. Row after row of folded tables, stacked boxes, sagging posters, clocks that didn't tick anymore. Her booth waited. The chair, the shawl, the tiny lamp, the same floral cloth draped over the table. And her. She was sitting exactly where she had been the first time they met her. Same hat, same glasses, same cardigan, the same soft smile. You brought it back. What was the point of all of this? Britt asked. Why did you make us do it? This is how I carry on, how I stay. It keeps me alive long past the years your kind were built for. I'm over 7,000 years old, dear. Give or take a century or two. You've had this camera for that long? Logan asked. It wasn't always a camera. Once it was a rock, a pretty one, then a jade jewel. Once it was a box covered in gold that I made people carry through the desert while they slaughtered untold thousands in my name. An ark, they called it. Her tone softened, almost nostalgic. It was a sword once. I convinced a man to pull it from a stone. Another time, and my favorite, by the way, it was Kool-Aid, poisoned and ice cold. I made them all drink it. You're an evil bitch, Tina said, her voice firm. And I hope you burn in hell. Maybe, the voice said. But I'm still here, and they're not. And I never lifted a finger to harm a soul. They all did it themselves, every time, to protect themselves or what they loved most. Just like you. So if there's a hell and if evil burns there, tell me, who do you think is down there burning? Them, not me. The air smelled faintly of old perfume. Jesse felt sweat on his neck. Britt asked quietly, So what now? Now, the voice said. You put my camera down and you leave. I'll wait for the next poor soul who wanders in thinking they're getting a bargain. Jesse hesitated, then nodded. He slid the camera fully onto the table. The instant he let go, the air shifted. The smell of lavender turned sweet and sour at once. The lamp's light dimmed. The lady's head tilted slightly downward, as if looking at the camera. The smile stayed frozen, but the life inside it drained away. She was a mannequin. No warning, no magical poof, just lifeless. The color of her skin dull. Her glasses caught the light and held it. The plastic shine along her cheek, the painted eyes, the molded hands resting gentle in her lap. The same smile, still faint and patient, like she had known this was coming. Britt's voice broke the silence. What the fuck, man? Yeah, Jesse said. This is beyond nightmare fuel. A woman in a red vest stepped out from behind a stack of boxes. She looked startled to see anyone there. Hey, she said. You kids can't be in here. That booth's off limits. We were just talking to the lady here, Tina said. There's no lady, dear, the woman replied. That booth's been storage for years. Somebody pays the rent automatically every month. No one's supposed to go in there. Jesse glanced back. The booth looked older and unused now, shadowed. Who pays for it? He asked. The woman shrugged. Beats me. Account's older than I am. Name on the record's faded. Now come on, out you go. Britt nodded. We're leaving. They walked out into the sunlight, and the door shut behind them with a hollow sound. No one spoke as they walked back across the lot. The air outside was sharp and clean, too bright after the dim rows of the market. Far down the row, a small sound broke the silence. A boy, maybe 10 or 11, wandered through the stalls, kicking a crushed soda can along the floor. He stopped when he saw the lady's booth. He stepped inside. The lady smiled her empty smile. The air was still, her flesh alive and warm again. On the table sat the camera. The boy's eyes lit up. Cool, he said. He picked it up, turned it over in his hands, and pressed a button. The empty click made him grin. Ah, she said. You have good taste, young man. He looked at her, grinning. How much? $15, she said. And it's yours. He dug into his pocket, pulled out a crumpled handful of bills and coins, and dropped them on the table. Thanks, lady, he said. You're welcome, she replied, warm and low. Be careful what you capture. I will. He walked out humming, pretending to take pictures, skipping into the sunlight. Click, click, click. The booth went silent again. Dust drifted in slow spirals through the air. The lady sat motionless, smiling her bright red lipstick smile. The 4 kids were never the same. No one really knows what happened to them. They faded away as friends and slowly became strangers. Sometimes life throws you a curveball and you've got to decide whether you're going to swing and hit it or take the strike yourself. Each choice has a consequence. It's just a matter of deciding which one you want to live with, or die with. And if you should ever find yourself wandering through a market filled with forgotten things, with old memories attached to them that do not belong to you, be careful what you buy. You never know what fresh hell you might be bringing home. This has been The Polaroid Project, Retro Horrors, The Lost Decade Book 6, written by B. Humphrey, narrated by Khai Lannor. Copyright 2024-2025 by B. Humphrey. Production copyright by B. Humphrey.